This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Naruto Was Trained by an Assassin. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
Naruto let out a soft moan as something wet and slightly rough brushed against his face several times. He moved, attempting to remove it, but it persisted, and now he could hear a whining sound to go with it. When the young blonde did open his eyes, Naruto burst out laughing to see Tomo lick his nose. He said to the small fox, okay, I'm awake," and the fox gave a happy yip, waving its tail. After getting off Naruto, he sat on the floor and observed him carefully getting out of bed. With Tomo cushioning in his wake, Naruto yawned and stretched before making his way into the kitchen. He placed the bowls on the ground and grinned as he hurriedly brought the young fox some fresh food and water. Naruto smiled as Tomo yipped happily, tucking into his food. After feeding his pet or companion, Naruto made some toast and a small bowl of cereal for himself for breakfast. As he chewed the food, he peered through the window. It appeared as though the day would be quite lovely. Somewhere, in one of Konoha's training grounds, Yugito had completed her warm-up exercises and was looking around. She chose to practice a little on one of the nearby training dummies since her training partner hadn't yet arrived. She gave a quiet grunt and started to kick and punch it. She pondered in silence how her life had changed as she practiced her taijutsu. She had lived in Kumo, a village she had detested with a fervor, just under a year ago. She tried to ignore the memories she had tried so hard to bury as she closed her eyes. Rather, she made an effort to reflect on what had transpired. She was now a resident of Konoha, a village that Kumo had targeted during both peace and war. She was one of the founding members of a covert assassins group in addition to being a chunin of Konoha. She welcomed the strange but unexpected change in her life. The sound of snapping branches startled her out of her reverie. The enhanced senses of hearing and smell were two advantages of being the Nibi's host. As she continued to train and waited for her training partner, she smiled. She stopped slowly when they finally touched down in the clearing. She said in a mockingly harsh tone, "You're late." Not a good thing for a prospective academy instructor, is it? Iruka Amino scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Sorry. My alarm clock didn't wake me like it was supposed to," he replied. Yugito simply smiled subtly at the young chunin, recalling their routine patrol mission and how she had grown to like him. Retrospection: the four Konoha shinobi had pulled over to set up camp for the evening. Yugito was assigned the task of gathering firewood and starting the fire. Returning with an armful of branches and sticks to burn, she cast a sidelong glance at the tent. Setting Iruka and the white-haired chunin Mizuki were doing. Iruka shook his head and Mizuki remarked, "Come on Iruka. Why do you want to teach a bunch of snot-nosed brats anyway? There's no chance for growing strong or getting famous." His voice trailed off as he shook his head. "I just want to help the kids out. Try to keep them from making some of the mistakes I made. Plus I know some of them are orphans after that night," he said. "I want to be there for those orphan kids. I know what it's like to lose your parents." All Mizuki did was roll his eyes. He questioned, "You're such a soft heart. How on earth are you ever going to be an actual shinobi with a bleeding heart?" Before making his way into a tent, Iruka turned to face the now burning fire and sighed softly. Iruka started setting up cooking supplies, and Yugito, who had lit it while listening to them, was quietly adding branches. She gave him a quick glance as he did so. She remarked, "I think that's an admirable goal." Iruka gave her a look. "Huh? The ex Kunoichi from Kumo grinned at him. "Wanting to help kids. Especially orphans. I think that's a very admirable goal. I know from experience how kids without parents could really use someone to help them out." Iruka asked Yugito, "You're an orphan?" And the blonde Kunoichi gave a sidelong glance. "Yes. Ever since I was 4 years old," she muttered. Iruka looked back at the apparatus with discomfort. "So, could you please get me some water?" he said, gesturing with a pot. Yugito got up and nodded. She turned back to him after taking a few steps. "If you'd like, I could help you train. So you can become an academy teacher," she continued. Iruka nodded after widening her eyes. Thank you," he said, grinning a little hesitantly. Just smiling back, Yugito walked away. Flashback comes to an end as Yugito left the training post. She grinned. "Well, get yourself warmed up. If you want to pass the practical portion of that instructor exam, you'll need to get into top shape." Iruka nodded and began warming up and stretching before the two took up their respective positions. The training ground was soon alive with the sounds of battle. Anko tried to cover her eyes and moaned in an apartment back in the village. The purple-haired chunin remained in bed, her attempts at sleep thwarted by sunlight that streamed into her window and onto her eyes. She silently cursed the sun for making her give up and get up. She buried her face in her hands as she attempted to suppress a mild headache. She had returned late last night from a mission in Western Fire Country, escorting a merchant back to his home village. She had filled out a report and was more than happy to stagger home after a couple of minor altercations with bandits along the way. And yet when the damn sun had woken her, it had seemed as though she had hardly closed her eyes. Slumped toward her apartment's main living room area, Anko cast drowsy glances around. There were two options for her. Go make herself a cup of very strong coffee and try to wake up, or just collapse onto her couch, which was sheltered from the sun at the moment. She looked from one to the other, then happily collapsed onto the couch. As he left for the academy, Naruto hummed a little. He was having a great time there. He was enjoying learning about ninja stuff almost as much as he was enjoying his training sessions with Raphael, despite the fact that many students ignored him and the teachers scowled at him. Not to mention that he knew 3 academy members who he regarded as friends. Of course, there was Hinata. Despite her extreme quietness and frequent stuttering, she was kind to him and would listen to him speak. Then there were Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamichi, his 2 most recent pals. Lazy, Shikamaru would often mutter about how difficult things were. However, after learning how to play chess from Naruto, he relished their games together. Naruto had already dropped multiple games to the slothful Nara, and Shikamaru was picking up the game quickly. Naruto Shogi was being taught by Shikamaru in return, and they had started switching off between games. Naruto had not yet defeated Shikamaru in a single game of Shogi. The main reason Choji and Naruto were enjoyable to hang out with was their shared love of ramen. They also had a past of being teased by other children. It was evident why Choji was teased, though, given the Akamichi's propensity for being pleasantly plump. Naturally, Naruto's classmates weren't all kind. Kiba was still smarting from his encounter with Naruto, finding it offensive that an orphan without a clan had managed to hold his own against him. It didn't help that his mother had heard what he had said and had grounded him after giving him a speech about respecting women and other students. It was all Naruto's fault, in his opinion. After that, Kiba would never stop making fun of Naruto, snagging every gaffe and pouting, trying to outdo the young blonde. In an effort to show that Naruto's prior success was an anomaly, he also persisted in attempting to set up a rematch with the character. Ryu, their taijutsu instructor, had noticed this and had temporarily prevented a rematch from occurring. He was aware that a match like this would turn ugly if Kiba didn't cool down. Nor was Sasuke Uchiha particularly kind to Naruto. Although the younger member of the Uchiha clan paid Naruto little attention, he was upset with the blonde boy for remarking that his hair resembled a chicken's butt. Like Kiba, he was a little conceited, but his father Fugaku's assertion that the Uchiha were the best shinobi clan in Konoha was more the source of his conceit. But Sasuke remained quiet most of the time. His thoughts were pulled to Naruto, who suddenly found himself arriving at the academy. Grinning, he stepped inside and made his way to the designated room for his class. Upon entering, however, he noticed that his smile was slightly fading as he focused on Hinata. At the moment, Hinata had her head lowered, her bangs casting a shadow over most of her face. She would usually be writing, reading, or keeping an eye out for him. Rather, her shoulders were hunched, and she appeared to be trembling slightly. Naruto stepped closer to her, putting a worried hand on her shoulder. "Hinata?" he inquired. Hinata nearly jerked out of his grasp and pivoted her head to avoid meeting his gaze. Worried more than before, Naruto took a seat beside her. He tried to look at Hinata's face and said, "Hinata, what's wrong?" When Hinata finally answered him in a quiet voice, she appeared to tremble. She essentially whispered, "N. Nothing is wrong, Naruto-kun," though it sounded more like she was holding back tears. With a gentle gesture, Naruto reached up to touch her chin and attempted to get her to look at him. He said, "Hinata, you can tell me what's wrong," but as soon as he got her to turn around, he stopped talking. Hinata had obviously been crying because her eyes were red and a little puffy. There was a small, awkwardly concealed bruise on her cheek, and it looked like the obvious reason for it. It seems that Hinata made an ill-advised attempt to cover it up quickly with makeup or something else. At seeing his friend in such pain and evidently grieving, Naruto felt a wave of rage rise within him. He asked, "Hinata, who did this?" Unable to meet his eyes directly, Hinata cast her gaze downward at the desk. It's nothing," she muttered. The blonde Jinchuriki asked again, a little more firmly, "Hinata, who hurt you?" The young Hyuga girl simply continued to gaze downward. My father. He made me spar with my cousin this morning. Neji he beat me. My father. My father." Hinata blurted, her eyes welling with tears as she related what had transpired to Naruto. After Hinata was knocked down by her cousin's final blow, ending the match, she gradually went to her knees. She felt tears welling up in her eyes as her body ached from the blows he had delivered to her. She looked up as a shadow passed over her and saw her father glaring at her. Disgraceful, he scowled at her and spat. That my own flesh and blood would be so weak. Hinata whimpered, I'm sorry, father, as she made an attempt to stand. She cried out in agony as Hiyashi pulled her to her feet. Still holding onto her arm, Hiyashi yelled, stop being such a whiny weakling. She cried out, Father, you're hurting me, but her words were cut short when a sharp smack to the cheek sent her reeling back to the floor. She gently caressed the left cheek that Hiyashi had given her the backhand. Hiyashi glared at her and said, you are a pathetic embarrassment to me in the Hyuga clan. Hinata was crying and clutching her cheek as the Hyuga head left, saying, until such time that you actually can prove your worth as a Hyuga, I wash my hands of you. With Hinata's completion, Naruto was shaking with rage. He was so furious that words could not express it. It seemed that nothing that could have come to mind would do. Upon noticing that Hinata was crying once more, Naruto took the only action that occurred to him. He drew her into an embrace. Hinata turned, naturally overcome with sadness, and wept into her chest. The two, Shikamaru and Choji, who had come in together, blinked at the sight of them. Shikamaru stopped Choji as he began to approach them. Let them be. It'd be too troublesome to bother them, he replied. Silently, Choji nodded, and the two moved to sit close to each other without disturbing them. When Hinata's sensei Kurenai noticed how upset she was, she stopped as well. She approached them and silently bowed to meet their level. She said, Naruto, what's going on? Naruto raised his gaze to Kurenai. Kurenai. Sensei. Iowella, I don't know if I should say, he replied. Kurenai touched Hinata's head tenderly and sighed softly. She said, it involves her family, doesn't it? She was aware of the ways the Hyuga behaved, and considering Hinata's character, she wouldn't be shocked if it caused issues for the young girl. Kurenai nodded, then shook her head at Naruto's quiet nod. Standing, she said softly, bring Hinata with you. Kurenai led them out of the classroom and down toward the nurse's office, and Naruto tried his best to bring Hinata up with him. A medic ninja there winced, examining Hinata's cheek bruise. She comforted Hinata, saying, don't worry sweetie. I'll make it all better, as her hand softly turned green and she applied it to the bruise. All outward signs of the injury vanished in a minute. Kurenai turned to see Naruto standing by the bed Hinata was occupying. Naruto, I would like you to stay with Hinata, until she's feeling well enough for class, alright? I'll be sure to write down notes for the both of you on whatever you miss. As Kurenai and the nurse left the room to have a private conversation, Naruto nodded. Naruto bent down to look into Hinata's eyes as they were going. He gave her a smile. He pointed to her cheek and said, see? It's all gone now. Hinata merely gave a quiet sniffle, her eyes now even more swollen and red. With a sigh, Naruto climbed onto the bed beside her. You know your dad's just a big jerk. Hinata shuddered a little. She retorted, no, he's right, I'm weak. Naruto merely gave a headshake. Huh, you were really awesome last time we sparred, remember? You did that thing with your palms and knocked Choji back? Hinata averted her gaze, but my father says. Hinata looked up at Naruto as he interrupted, who cares what your stupid dad says? Your dad's stupid, cause he's all mean to you and stuff. And we're going to prove him wrong. Hinata gave him a blink. How? Naruto smiled. With a determined nod, he said, because you're going to come train with me in Enko ne. Chan and Yugito ne. Chan, we'll all make you really strong. A tiny glimmer of hope flickered across Hinata's vision, only to die away when her own self-doubt surfaced. But why would they want to help me? Naruto gave her a gentle smile. Cuz like you and me, they know what it's like to have people be mean and bad to them, so what do you say? Hinata played with her hands and bit her lip. Do you really think they'll help? Naruto gave her a smile. He grinned broadly and gave a thumbs up. Yeah, we'll both be super strong in no time. Believe it, he exclaimed. Seeing that smile, Hinata couldn't help but feel better. A small smile spread across her own face. Alright then, she replied. Naruto smiled. Alright, then you come with me after the academy's all done, okay? Hinata gave a slight nod, then flushed. Naruto.kun, she whispered. As she gave him a hug, Naruto just smiled at her. She whispered, thank you, for being nice to me. With an awkward blink, Naruto gave her a hug in return. Hinata, it's not a problem, he grinned. That's when he decided he liked hugs. Hinata blushed and quickly withdrew after realizing what she was doing after a few moments. Sorry, she said, averting her gaze. With his eyes closed and a head rub, Naruto simply smiled. Hinata, there's no problem, he remarked. I actually liked it. Hinata continued to blush and pin her fingers together. However, a tiny smile spread across her face. She muttered, So did I, and then raised an eyebrow at Naruto. Should we head back to class now? Naruto grinned. Just when you're prepared, he stated. Hinata nodded, then hopped off the bed with a smile. Then let's go. When they returned to class, Hinata merely chuckled softly at his enthusiasm. Later on in the day, Anko was occupied with adjusting the hidden blade bracer she had made using the components Raphael had given her. She had discovered, alongside Yugito and Naruto, how each component fit together and how to ensure that the whole thing functioned. Naturally, Naruto had only been permitted to learn how to assemble it because of his youth and lack of weaponry experience. He wouldn't be permitted to use one for training until he was more mature and had a greater appreciation for firearms. Anko took his time studying the mechanism, making sure everything was in working order. Raphael had also shown them attachment points for various objects. In addition to the main blade mechanism, Raphael's hidden blade bracer on his right arm featured a spring, loaded poison dart launcher and a smaller, hollow blade for dousing poison. Additionally, Raphael showed them a weapon he claimed to be a hidden pistol. When he triggered it, it had spitfire and smoke and sounded like thunder. A nearby training post had shattered horribly, with a hole nearly through it. The two kunoichi were obviously in awe of it, and Naruto was yelling and cheering. Then Raphael had informed them that Yugito and Anko would begin with just one hidden blade for the time being. He would let them select the attachments that most fit them as their training went on and they gained confidence in their abilities. They had the option of using both hidden blades and all of their attachments, or they could combine the ones that worked best for Tama, for example, using 2 hidden blades with a hidden pistol, or 1 hidden blade with poison attachments. He did, however, caution that he would need to conduct some investigation and testing in regards to the hidden pistol because one of the components, gunpowder, which he claimed was essential for it to function, was something the elemental nations did not appear to be familiar with at this time. After giving it a final inspection, she placed the bracer over her left forearm. She adjusted it and stood up, stooping and swaying in her assassin beginner's outfit. She smiled, flipping up the hood, and slipped out the back window of her apartment, making her way toward the training grounds. As Yugito nibbled on some sushi and waited for Anko to arrive, she hummed softly. Following their training with Iruka, the two went to grab some food and engaged in a lengthy conversation. They had then split up, Yugito heading home to prepare for his training as an assassin. She and Anko spent most of their time sparring and helping Naruto advance his taijutsu, physical conditioning, and chakra control while Raphael was away on a mission with the Hokage. When he got back, Raphael had promised to step up the trio's training. She smiled, sensing that someone was getting close. Detecting people was made easier by having Biju's enhanced senses. As she was finishing her sushi, Anko landed in front of her and she looked up. She grinned and tossed the empty bento box and chopsticks to a small pack nearby. "About time you showed up," she said. With a smile, Anko rolled her shoulders and removed her hood. "Took the scenic route. Decided to try and do some stealth training," she explained. After all, Raphael mentioned learning how to move, unseen, through a crowd, so I figure the better my stealth is, the faster that training will go by. Yugito nodded and also extended a little. "Good thinking. For now, what should we practice? Tracking and hiding, weapons, or just straight up taijutsu?" Anko smiled. She pulled up her hood and said, "I feel like some fun. Go and hide, kitty." Chan, which made Yugito sigh in irritation. After that, she ran off to hide. With a smile of expectation, Anko raised her own hood again and gave Yugito a slight advantage. As the academy was about to end, Naruto was making his way back to his apartment while Hinata accompanied him. As they arrived at his apartment, Naruto apologized for the wait and said, "I need to pick some things up." Hinata simply reddened. She said, "It's okay," as Naruto opened his apartment to her. Tomo yipped excitedly as he hurried to the door and leapt up to greet Naruto. With a smile, Naruto grabbed his animal companion and held him tightly while the fox kitten excitedly started to lick his face. With a gasp, Hinata's eyes widened at the cute fox kit. She exclaimed, Oh, he's so cute." Tomo sniffed the air toward her and blinked at her. Naruto held Tomo out slowly so he could get a closer look at Hinata. and then his tail waggled and he curled up in a cute way. Satisfied that Tomo appeared to be embracing Hinata, Naruto smiled. He put Tomo in Hinata's arms and said, "I think he wants you to hold him," before she could respond. The fox in her arms blinked at Hinata, then yelled and giggled as he started licking her chin. Heading to his bedroom to change into his assassin novice robes. Naruto smiled. From his bedroom, he called out, "Yep, he likes you. His name's Tomo, by the way." Hinata grinned. She said, "Hello, Tomo. My name is Hinata." The fox kite simply yipped contentedly, its tail wagging. Soon after, Naruto appeared wearing his novice robes and toting Tomo's pack. "Come on, Tomo," he uttered, gesturing to the group. After jumping out of Hinata's embrace, Tomo jumped into the pack that Naruto had lowered to the floor. Naruto smiled and placed the pack on his back after he was safely inside. "Ready?" Hinata gave Naruto's new outfit a quick blink. Naruto.kun, what are you wearing?" "Oh my goodness, these are special training clothes," he exclaimed, rubbing his head uneasily. "Come on, we need to go now. Otherwise Chan might get angry." Blinking, Hinata followed Naruto outside and continued to do so as he led her through back alleys, trying to stay clear of people. Naruto.kun, what's going on?" Naruto smiled. "It's a component of my education, I'm meant to be elusive," he uttered, pulling his hood over his head. He continued guiding her to the training area while beaming. When they got there, Naruto let Tomo go, and the dog joyfully ran around sniffing and playing. As Naruto was about to speak with Hinata, a figure resembling him suddenly appeared from the tree line and attempted to run past them. However, the figure was tackled from above by another figure who had also been dressed similarly and had leapt from a tree branch onto the first person to run. Anko stood up and smiled, and Naruto blinked. She exclaimed, her arms raised as though she was relishing the applause of a cheering crowd, "And she's down. Repeat, Kitty. Chan is down." Yugito snarled on the ground. She swept Anko's legs out from under her and exclaimed, "Stop calling me that." Anko hit the floor with a grunt and then a pout. "Hey, no fair. Dead people can't knock others over." A strange giggling came from close by, and they both blinked. They turned to look at Hinata, who was blushing now and trying not to laugh at herself for watching them. Naruto merely smiled. He pointed to Yugito and Anko and said, "Hinata, meet them. They're Nei.Kan and Nei.Chan." Anko grunted softly and leapt to her feet, acrobatically, without using her hands. She lowered her hood and said, raising one eyebrow, "Hey Gaki, who's your friend?" Yugito followed suit, releasing her tightly wound braid. Naruto gave them a smile. "This is my friend Hinata Hyuga. I brought her with me to train today." Yugito gave Anko a quick look. "You sure that's wise, Naruto? You know some of the training Issa well, not exactly for others to know about." With a sinking heart, Hinata peered down at that. If Naruto was meant to keep his training a secret, she didn't want to cause him any trouble. However, Naruto simply dismissed their worries. "Nah, we were just going to do taijutsu and some chakra stuff," Naruto replied. "Maybe you two could help her as well?" Arms crossed, Anko said. "What about her clan? Wouldn't they prefer teaching her themselves? Most Hyuga I know refuse to use anything outside of their Jukin." Hinata shuddered a little. She muttered, My father feels he can't train me anymore." Naruto touched her shoulder with his hand. With a slight scowl, he remarked, "She needs better people to train her." Anko crouched down in front of Hinata and sighed. She smiled and said, "Hey, cheer up there, princess. I didn't mean to make you upset." Hinata gave a quiet nod, and Anko smiled. "All right. How's your chakra and chakra control?" Hinata moved clumsily. I have rather small amounts of chakra currently, but I've been doing chakra control training," she stated. Anko grinned. "So excellent chakra control. Then let's focus on those reserves, shall we? When we reach the training clearing, I want you to do 10 laps around it. Naruto, try for 20. With a nod, the two made their way to the clearing containing the training posts. Taking a quick look at Hinata, Yugito bit her lip. She was unsure about telling Hinata about her previous residence. In the end, she chose to put it away for later. It just seemed like a bad idea to bring it up right now. "Alright you two. Stretch, warm up, and run." Anko smiled as they arrived at the training clearing. Anko watched as the two young students did that right away. Anko and Yugito watched as the two started their run around the clearing after they were done. When Anko noticed Naruto reducing his speed just enough for Hinata to keep up with him, she grinned quietly. She giggled, "Ah, they're so cute together." Yugito laughed too. She replied, yes, they are, and then sighed. I wonder how Raphael Sama is doing. Anko arched an ear. She questioned, Raphael Sama? Yugito gave a blink. Well, he is our leader, isn't he? He should be treated with respect. Anko gave a quiet laugh. Maybe, but I just thought it was funny. He's barely older than me. It's odd thinking of calling someone barely older than myself Sama. Yugito gave her head a quick rub. I guess that's just something I haven't forgotten from my training in Kumo, she replied. Anko took one look at her. Can I ask you something? Why did you leave Kumo? Yugito widened her eyes and then looked away. It's personal, she remarked. I'm not sure if I want to share it with anyone unless I have to. That caused Anko to blink. She turned back to watch the two kids run and said, well, okay. But you know that Raphael and I are here for you, and holding something in will just hurt you in the long run. After observing her for a while biting her lip, Yugito sighed. She whispered, I'll think about it, okay. I'll think about telling you and Raphael. Anko gave a small smile. Only if you feel like it, she remarked while they observed Hinata and Naruto sprint. After they get done with this and then do some meditation, why don't you spar with Naruto, while I work with the Hyuga girl? I think what she needs most is confidence, and I have that in spades, she said while grinning. While they watched the two run, Yugito nodded. She looked at Anko as she was doing it, startled to realize that she was considering telling Raphael and her the truth. But then again, maybe this is what having friends means, she reasoned to herself. After a week as he exited the Hokage's tower, Raphael exhaled contentedly. They had recently returned from their diplomatic mission to Suna, and although Sarutobi's negotiations with the Kazekage had not gone well, he had benefited himself and Konoha greatly from his dealings with the Suna Nezumi. His first plan was to contact Anko, Yugito, and Naruto to check in with them and find out how they were all progressing with their training during his absence. Based on the sun's location in the sky and the large number of children playing around, he was betting the academy was closed. In other words, if they performed as expected, the three would be in training. He headed for the training ground they used all the time. But he was taken aback to see a small girl there when he got there. In particular, the young girl that Naruto had saved from those cruel people. As he watched her and Naruto spar, Raphael just blinked. It seemed like more of Naruto was attacking while the girl was defending meekly and quickly giving up ground. He came up behind Yugito and Anko. With composure, he inquired, is there anything here I should know about? Despite their surprise, both girls whirled around and let out yelps. Anko yelled, attracting the attention of Naruto and Hinata, don't scare us like that. Raphael. Sensei, Naruto exclaimed, racing to his aid. Raphael. Sensei, this is Hinata. Remember, how you and me rescued her? Raphael gave a nod. He gently bent and said, Hinata.san, it's great to see you again. Hinata gave the bow back. A dot and you as well, Raphael. Sama. Forgive me for intruding but N Naruto. Kuna, Heya. Anko bluntly stated what Hinata was reluctant to say. Naruto offered to train with her after the academy, because her clan is full of assholes. Hinata merely cast a sidelong glance, appearing mortified and slightly agitated. With a quiet sigh, Raphael ran a hand through his hair. What exactly have you been training her in? Nothing related to our club, Yugito remarked. We've been focusing on chakra reserves, chakra control, and sparring. Raphael gave a nod of agreement. Good then. Hinata, you are welcome then to continue joining us for training. Though you'll have to leave for some parts of our training. They're exclusive to our little get-together, he replied. Hinata gave a blink. I understand Raphael. Sama. Is that W.you all W? Wear matching robes. Raphael ignored her query. To a degree. Don't worry about it, he replied. With a swift bow of acceptance, Hinata resumed her fighting with Naruto. While doing so, Anko and Yugito observed Raphael having a quiet conversation with each other. I think it's about time I train you both extensively in both stealth movement and assassination techniques, he replied. I think I'll need to talk to Sarutobi about help with both. He could maybe lend experienced shinobi to help aid in the training, though we can label it as tactical drills or something. Raphael kept an eye on the two small children while the two nodded. Despite Hinata's best efforts, she was always on the defensive and would give up easily when Naruto attacked. I think something's wrong here. Look at her stance and compare it to her movements and reactions. Yugito and Anko both did as he told them. Hinata would assume the Hyuga's customary Juken stance as each spar began. Her legs were spread wide in a somewhat rigid position, Her right arm was bent at the elbow and her hand was held close to her waist, and her left arm and hand were extended forward. The way she's holding her foot, it looks like she's trying to minimize how much she actually moves. It's like she's trying to stay in a specific area. When she attacks or tries to defend initially, her feet will move enough to shift her body into an attack, or to help deflect or dodge one of Naruto's attacks. But otherwise there's very little movement from where she is, until Naruto takes the initiative and presses his attack. And that's when she falls to pieces. She tries to hold her ground, but you can see her instincts are screaming to move away, to get out of there. And then her mind will try to keep her stance, and she just ends up tripping over herself, losing her balance and forcing herself to retreat more. She completely loses the initiative. When you add that to her shy demeanor, she loses her will to fight, and loses the spar. Raphael continued, some of her stance works for her. But it looks like it's too rigid, too confining for her, Raphael stated. Anko merely gave him a blink. She's using the standard Juken stance that her clan uses. She might only be using the basics, but still, it's the same stance all the Hyuga use. Why wouldn't it work for her? Raphael gave her a quick look. Just because all the other Hyuga use it doesn't mean that every single Hyuga can. Not everyone can use your style of taijutsu, as it requires speed, agility, and flexibility. For Hinata, I think it's the same problem. The Juken doesn't fit her abilities. Someone's taijutsu stance should fit what they can do, not them being forced to try and fit a taijutsu stance. Yugito gave a nod. So in essence, the reason Hinata is failing is because she's trying to use a stance that doesn't fit her. Raphael gave a shrug. It's possible. It's also possible that she's simply too afraid to try and hold her ground, and that is what's messing her up. We'll observe them fighting, and see if we can determine which is the problem, he stated. The three watched as Naruto picked Hinata up and gave her encouragement while the two kunoichi nodded. Meekly nodding, the bashful Hyuga got ready to fight once more. Sarutobi was elsewhere, sighing as he examined the mountains of paperwork that were waiting for him. After being away on the diplomatic mission, he was a little irritated as he sat down, hoping for some time to rest and unwind. His secretary peeked in as he got to work reading, signing, and stamping documents. Hokage. Sama? Anbu Captain Weasel wishes to speak to you, she replied. Sarutobi simply nodded, opening the door for the youthful Anbu member. Sarutobi cast a sidelong glance at the newest member of his Anbu force, donning the Anbu Weasel mask and full Anbu armor at the moment. A little impatiently, what is it, Weasel.san? He inquired. The young man spoke, and his words caused him to freeze. Itachi Uchiha declared in a flawless monotone, members of the Uchiha clan are planning a coup against Konoha. With a sigh, Sarutobi gave Itachi his whole attention, but only one thought crossed his mind. I'm getting too old for this. Kawa no Kuni. The city of the capital fireworks illuminated the city of Kawa no Kuni, land of rivers, and filled the night sky with colorful explosions. The city was a flurry of activity, full of energy as the nation celebrated its 300th anniversary. Built in the center of the main river that cut through the nation from north to south, the city was a sight to behold. Parts of the city were connected to one another by canals and bridges, and it was connected to the opposing banks of the river by ferries and two enormous bridges. Partygoers laughed and rejoiced all over the city, taking advantage of the games, food, and mementos available at the many vendor stands that lined the sides of the streets. Huge public dances were held in city plazas for everyone to enjoy. 5 figures, 2 of whom were dressed in opulent looking kimonos, were sitting in a small boat being rowed by its operator in the middle of the celebration. The 2 men were dressed in festival masks. The smaller man had on a mask shaped like Ryujin the sea dragon, while the other man had on a mask depicting Sujin, the Shinto deity of water. The other men, each brandishing a different weapon, stood by and watched in silence. In another place, 2 geisha were listening carefully while a dark figure talked to them from behind some shadows. The figure gave them a stack of Ryo bills and they nodded and smiled, then faded back into the shadows. The 5 of them were now outside one of the plazas, where people were dancing and having a good time, after the boat containing the 2 men in masks had docked. The smaller man's masked face was visible as he looked in different directions, while the taller man crossed his arms, seemingly uninterested in the whole thing. He came to a stop when he saw 2 geisha approach and bow. One of them said, "My lords, may we offer you our services and company?" The shorter man spoke in a voice that suggested he was somewhat younger, but the taller one gave a tch noise and waved them away. He grinned and said, "Of course," allowing one of the geisha to nudge him in the direction of the dance floor. The 2 started to blend in with the dancers as the other geisha faded. The previous figure stood on the other side of the plaza, watching in silence before smiling and joining the group of dancers. The man wearing the Ryujin mask danced with the geisha, grinning behind his mask. The man spoke to her over his shoulder as they turned to face the others in unison. "You know, I think I could maybe use some company tonight, in my bedroom," he replied. The man blinked, stopped, and turned to discover the geisha had vanished when there was no reply. Startled, he started searching for her. After turning to his right, he glanced to his left and saw nothing there. His eyes widened slightly and he saw a shadowy figure for a split second before a burning sensation seemed to spread from his neck and a searing pain shot through him. With a slow stumble, he turned back to his partner looking almost bewildered. The Ryujin masked man slowly raised a hand to his throat, and the Sujin mask wearing man blinked at his partner's strange behavior on the edge of the dance. Before he collapsed and revealed the person who had been standing behind him the entire time, the taller man's eyes widened as he noticed blood leaking between his companion's fingers. The man had a head wrap that concealed everything but his eyes, and he was dressed entirely in black. He eyed the man wearing the Sujin mask and held up a blood-stained kunai knife. "Kill him!" The man yelled as he turned to run away, and his 3 bodyguards charged forward, pulling guns. The man shot forward, bouncing off one of the statues in the center of the plaza. He struck one of the men who was charging and used the kunai to stab him in the neck, sending him to the ground. The second man attempted to drive the katana he was wielding down at him, but he quickly got up off the corpse and sidestepped, driving his knee into his attacker's gut to take the breath out of the sword wielder. Then, with a swift movement, he put his arm around the bigger man's neck and twisted, killing him by breaking his neck. With the spear he carried, he spun around the third man who had stabbed him. The man attempted to stab himself again, but the figure grabbed the spear, punched and kicked him, then swung the spear and stabbed him in the back. The man turned as he hit the ground and ran away, leaving 3 dead bodies and a terrified crowd in his wake. The man was attempting to make his way toward the city center while running for his life. The daimyo's palace and his samurai were present. The figure dressed in black leapt along the sidewalks and bridges, hopping along pylons that protruded from one of the canals. Then, he used chakra to leap to the side of a building and swiftly scaled up towards the roof. When he arrived, he paused and peered, his dark eyes focusing on the figure that was running. Leaping from roof to roof, he shot off after him. The man with the mask panted, his lungs aching for air and his legs burning. However, he smiled upon spotting the palace in the distance. He would be safe if he could enlist the samurai's help. He would not be in danger. As he approached, he noticed that 4 of the lower-ranking samurai were stationed close to the entrance that led to the courtyards that surrounded the palace. He ran over to them and yelled, "Please, you need to help me. A killer's after me." With haste, the samurai drew their weapons. "Hold there," exclaimed one, causing the man to halt and appear fearful. He turned and yelled, "Please, I need help. There's a killer after me." The black-clad figure was staring back at him, and his eyes widened with fear. The man pointed at him as he slowly withdrew a pair of knives from his belt and prepared himself. He yelled, "There, that's him. Kill him," as 2 of the samurai hurriedly advanced. The terrified man and the other samurai were oblivious to the second figure that was observing everything from above. With a slow motion, the figure raised their left arm and played with the underside of the leather bracer they were wearing. A faint, nearly silent, PFFT sound was heard, along with the faintest hint of light reflecting off metal. Abruptly the man wearing the Sujin mask clasped his neck, blinking at the sudden sting of pain. Suddenly, he had trouble breathing, his body shook, and he collapsed to his knees. The samurai paused and faced him as he started to gasp for air, tumbling forward and only just managing to catch himself with one hand before collapsing to the ground and convulsing. None of them saw the figure in black vanish from sight or the second figure fly off over the rooftops. Seeing the man in the Sujin mask finally stop moving was all they could do. Rushing to the gate, one of them set about ringing the alarm bell there. When the figure in black finally stopped running and removed the black mask she was wearing, he panted a fair distance away. Using it to wipe sweat from his face, Raphael asked himself, "How the hell does anyone breathe in this thing?" A playful female voice said, "Oh, I don't know. I thought you looked intimidating in it." Raphael turned to see a woman dressed in black shinobi pants with a kunai holster around her right thigh, a belt with supply pouches, and a tan-colored, long-sleeved tunic with an elevated hood. On her left forearm, she also wore a leather bracer with a metal mechanism on the underside. She smiled, reaching up to pull down her hood to reveal Anko Midarashi's smiling face. Konoha Kunoichi, who is now 20 years old, still had purple hair that was nearly shoulder length and was worn in a low, short ponytail as opposed to her typical pineapple style ponytail. Raphael laughed. He laughed, "Come on, I was about as intimidating as a wet cat," then took a serious tone. "Did you get the documents from their hotel room?" Anko took a scroll out of one of the pouches and nodded. "It's all right here. All the files belonging to Kuroya Kyudo, the king of black market weapons. The now deceased Kuroya Kyudo," she continued. As he accepted the scroll, Raphael nodded. "Excellent. We can hopefully use this to track down the bandit groups and others he sold weapons to," he stated. "For now though, let's get back to the hotel. We'll need to hide out for a couple of days." Anko gave a nod, and the two of them set out, staying in the shadows as they heard the sound of guards rushing through the city. While they were doing this, Anko began to think back on the previous 2 years. Raphael had started teaching them unseen movement when he got back from Suna. How to move between locations without drawing attention to yourself while blending in with the crowd. Raphael had trained all 3 of them, using Konoha's bustling marketplace as a training ground. Initially, he was the only one watching them as they attempted to elude his notice. With Sarutobi's assistance, Raphael had gradually added more targets to the training. The assassin recruits would sneak up on clones and occasionally volunteer shinobi to assassinate them. Aside from that, he had started giving them more extensive instruction in the Assassin Brotherhood's weaponry. He started teaching them how to use the hidden blades as an addition to their taijutsu in combat, as well as how to use them to kill targets. As their assassination abilities improved, Anko and Yugito concentrated on particular assassination techniques that they were familiar with. Sticking to a single hidden blade bracer, Anko had selected the poison blade and poison dart attachments for it. She had extensive knowledge of poison from her time as Orochimaru's former apprentice, which she was happy to apply for the greater good. In battle, she also used a pair of curved daggers that had the assassin emblem emblazoned directly above the hilts on each blade. On the other hand, Yugito chose not to use poison. She actually chose a very straightforward strategy: a single bracer with a hidden blade and no attachments. She didn't feel comfortable using poison, and she didn't think it was necessary to have 2 hidden blades since she already had 2 katars. A few months prior, Naruto had started his full training with the hidden blade bracer after it was determined he could wield one without actually harming or killing anyone. Naruto was provided with a wooden practice kunai to use during the simulated assassinations in the marketplace, but he was only permitted to train with the real one on practice dummies in their training field. Along with learning the fundamentals of swordplay from Raphael, Naruto had also started training to fight with a sword. For his 8th birthday, Anko had gotten him a bakken, and he was diligently learning the fundamentals. Raphael had only felt that Anko and Yugito were prepared to start doing active fieldwork as assassins within the last 6 months. With the help of Sarutobi's information and his still growing network of informants in the Land of Fire, Raphael had located targets that were relatively simple for the 2 of them to track down. Typically, the targets of the assassinations were either small-time criminal bosses or lieutenants in major towns, or leaders of bands operating in the wild. Anko had killed a senior official of one of the biggest illegal arms dealers in the Land of Fire just 3 weeks prior. This mission had been prompted by the information she had managed to obtain from the man's residence. The man they had killed belonged to Kuroya Kyudo, black merchant, one of the most prosperous dealers of death in the country, and was a member of his weapon black market organization. Furthermore, the evidence they had taken from his house implicated him in both inciting periodic uprisings and rebellions in order to sell his weapons to both sides of the very conflicts he had started, as well as in supplying arms to various bandit groups across the continent. Additionally, the information indicated that he would be in Kawa no Kuni to conduct negotiations for a new contract. Raphael had determined that this target would work well for evaluating Anko's abilities. He had given her the assignment and gone with her to watch her work. She had scouted the city, recognized him from when he had arrived 2 days earlier, and had even posed as a servant girl to sneak into his hotel and obtain information. Using all the information she had acquired, she devised a plan for his murder, using Raphael as a decoy and a means of guiding the target to the exact location she desired. Anko gave Raphael a quick smile. She addressed him as the head of an assassin chapter and said, "So, do I pass mentor?" She was waved away by Raphael. "I'm no mentor. I need a lot more years before then," he stated. "But as for passing, I guess you'll have to wait till we get to Konoha, won't you?" he joked. Anko scowled. She pouted, punching his arm and making him stagger, saying, "You're mean." With a backhand of, "You're the one who punched me," Raphael responded. They exchanged a look and then burst out laughing as they walked to their hotel room. Konoha. The following day in Konoha, the day was once again splendid. The birds were chirping, the sun was shining, and people were going about their happy lives. Hiruzen Sarutobi was occupied with paperwork in his office. He sighed softly as he placed another signed document aside, the problem still weighing heavily on his mind. Itachi Uchiha had informed him nearly 2 years prior of his father's intention to lead a coup against him and the council. Shortly after the Kyuubi attack, it seems that an unidentified source had been quietly distributing rumors about Madara Uchiha's use of his Sharingan to control the Kyuubi. Madara Uchiha was the leader of the Uchiha clan and company founder of Konoha with Hashirama Senju. This information had been made public, giving rise to rumors that the Yondaime Hokage and numerous others had been killed in a Kyuubi attack that was actually the work of Uchiha rather than a random incident. The people had grown suspicious of the Uchiha, which resulted in some awkward encounters between the clan and the Konoha shinobi who were born into civilian life. It was simple for the Uchiha clan to begin to feel pressure when combined with the fact that their distraction was separated from the rest of the village by the Nidaime Hokage Tobirama Senju. Once more, Sarutobi cursed his late sensei. Despite his respect for Tobirama as a shinobi, he had noticed recently that Tobirama was the root of quite a few issues. His resentment of the Uchiha had played a significant role in the clan's current unrest, along with the fact that Madara Uchiha would never have left Konoha if it weren't for Tobirama. Not to add, Tobirama was the one who not only established a civilian council but also gave them authority over matters beyond their purview. 1. The Sandaime Hokage now had to deal with a predicament that no leader liked to handle. How to put an end to a coup attempt while still allowing the village to survive. He had been gently suggesting to Fugaku that what he was about to do was reckless, but Fugaku had ignored him. Furthermore, Itachi's most recent reports appeared to merely reiterate the necessity of spilling blood to end the issue before it got worse. His secretary came to wake him from his reverie by opening the door. She murmured, "Hokage. Sama, Chunin Iruka Amino wishes to speak with you." Sarutobi reclined, grunting a little. "Send him in, please," he said. The youthful Chunin hurried into the office. It had only been 6 months since Iruka had finally succeeded in becoming an academy teacher, and he was still a little anxious about performing well. He was always asking the more seasoned academy teachers how he could help the students learn and maintain their attention. He bowed and said, "Thank you for seeing me, Hokage. Sama. I'm sorry to bother you, but I have a question considering an upcoming lesson. According to my curriculum, I'm supposed to be teaching my classes about the village of Uzushiogakure no Sato, and the Uzumaki clan," he stated. Sarutobi's eyes grew wide, and he let out a quiet, comprehending sigh. "And you're wondering if one of your students, Naruto Uzumaki, has a connection to that clan?" At that, Iruka gave a nod. "Yes, Hokage. Sama. Is he a part of that clan?" Sarutobi let out a quiet sigh. "It's a complicated. I'm afraid that there are certain parts of Naruto's life that currently need to remain classified." Iruka, looking a little anxious now, said, "I understand, Hokage. Sama. But if Naruto doesn't know about his lineage, what should I do if he asks questions in class?" After giving Iruka a long look, Sarutobi closed his eyes. With a weary, defeated tone, he said, "Iruka-san, don't worry about it. I'll deal with the situation today. For now, continue preparations for your class." The voice of his leader startled the young Chunin, causing him to blink. He said, "Oh, of course, Hokage. Sama. Thank you for seeing me," before turning to walk away. Sarutobi silently sighed and considered the current circumstance before raising one hand. A moment later, he saw an Enbu kneeling in front of him, disguised as a hawk. The elderly Hokage looked at him for a moment before continuing. "I want you to find Naruto Uzumaki, and bring him here." With a bow of his head, the Enbu vanished amidst a whirlwind of foliage. With a heavy heart, Sarutobi returned to his paperwork, letting out a quiet sigh. He now had 2 big things to worry about. In another of Konoha's parks, a tiny cat was relaxing in a clearing within a tiny forest. He was silently grooming himself, licking his paw, running it over his nose and head, and then licking it once more. But then it stopped, twitching its ears, and looked up to its left. The cat continued to gaze in that direction, but it found nothing, so it returned to grooming. Naruto Uzumaki cautiously peered around the tree to observe the cat. The 9-year-old academy pupil was wearing black shorts, sandals, and a burnt orange hoodie with the hood up. He lifted his hand slowly and touched the small radio that was fastened around his neck. "This is Whiskers, target sighted. Shadow, confirm?" A few seconds later, Shikamaru Nara's deep, sibilant voice responded. "Confirm, bow on ear. Fang, are you in position?" Next was Kiba Inuzuka's response. "This is Fang in position, waiting for team leader's order." Nodding, one of the Chunin instructors in charge of the academy gave a nod. "Team, begin the plan." A small white puppy appeared out of some bushes very quickly, charging at the cat, who let out a loud hiss before sprinting in Naruto's direction. The cat nearly skidded as Naruto emerged, trying to turn and take off in a different direction. It turned and started running after the small puppy on its tail when Kiba suddenly materialized in front of it. The cat then froze and started struggling and howling. From his stance, Shikamaru gradually lowered his hands from the rat hand sign, which he used to call forth his clan's signature jutsu. Shadow possession a success. You can move in sensei. Swiftly landing beside the struggling cat, the Chunin, with Shikamaru's assistance, managed to stuff the enraged animal into a cat carrier and fasten it, just managing to pry his fingers from the door before a pair of tiny claws attempted to break them. While Kiba was picking up his puppy, Akamaru, he continued to growl and bark at the cat carrier. Naruto stepped forward and took a tiny sack out of his hoodie pocket. He said, "Here, Tora," and pushed some cat treats into the carrier, which made the cat a little more at ease as it started to eat them. The teacher of Chunin gave a nod. He told them all, "Excellent work," and the three genin let out a sigh of relief. Under the new academy system, all third-year students and up were assigned low D-rank missions, which amounted to little more than housework and odd jobs around the village. The third year and up would be divided into arbitrary groups of 3 genin students on their designated days of the week, and they would carry out these missions under the supervision of a Chunin instructor or volunteer Chunin and Junin. This new addition to the Academy's educational program was made for 4 reasons. The first was that it aided in early teamwork instruction for the pupils. It clarified for them how Konoha shinobi depended on their allies to complete missions. The second benefit was that it prepared the students for the possibility that, as their careers developed, they would collaborate with unidentified teammates. After they graduated, they would be given general teammates, but they also needed to get used to the idea of working with different teammates. The third reason was that it gave the teachers a chance to assess how well each generation collaborated with the others by analyzing who got along best with whom. The Hokage and Junin instructors could then use this information later on when it came time to assign teams. In the end, the instructors' interests took precedence over the students. It was beneficial for them to experience leading or mentoring a group of genin. Things they might be required to perform in the future. Naruto had completed 12 missions since the year's beginning. So far, the missions have included painting fences and houses, picking up litter, walking dogs, and other manual labor. Intensive jobs. They were merely academy students, so nothing really fascinating happened. The carrier was hefted up to the Chunin instructor's side. "Well, good work, all 3 of you. You all head back to the academy, and all." The Hawk Anbu suddenly materialized and turned to face the instructor. "Hokage Sama wishes to speak with Naruto Uzumaki," he stated. The Chunin nodded after blinking. "Very well. Naruto-san, you're dismissed," he replied. Naruto moved to the ANBU's side and lowered his hood, a little taken aback and concerned about what this was all about. With a Shunshin jutsu, the two vanished as the Anbu put a hand on his shoulder. Sarutobi looked up as they appeared in the Hokage's office, and Naruto staggered a little. Then the Anbu vanished, and Naruto glanced nervously at the Hokage. He inquired, "Gigi-san, is something wrong?" With a low sigh, Sarutobi gestured to a chair in front of his desk. While Naruto took a seat, Sarutobi collected his thoughts. "Naruto, I believe it's time that you learn a part of your heritage," he whispered quietly. At that, Naruto's eyes grew wide, and he leaned in. He asked with a hint of excitement and hope, "Why? You mean I'll learn about my parents?" Sighing, Sarutobi turned to face Naruto. Naruto, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you who your parents are." "Not yet at least," Sarutobi replied. Naruto cast a melancholy glance at him. Why Gigi-san? Why can't you tell me?" The elderly Hokage let out a quiet sigh. Silently, he uttered, "Naruto, your parents were extremely strong, extremely powerful ninjas. They made many enemies outside of Konoha. And if it was known that you were their child, they would try to kill you before you could become strong enough to protect yourself. That is why, for now, your parents must be kept a secret," he said quietly. Sarutobi sighed as Naruto looked down, a few tears spilling from his eyes. "Naruto, I'm sorry. I truly am. I would love nothing more than to tell you who your parents are, Buddha." Naruto cried out, "But what?" as she looked up at him and continued to silently cry. "Do you know what it's like, old man? Huh? To see all those children with their parents and seeing them smile and play together and be happy, and not knowing about your own parents. Why can't I know? Why?" The elderly Hokage gave him a somber look before raising an eyebrow at the images of previous Hokages. He fixed his gaze on the Yondaime Hokage. A short while later, he turned to face Naruto again. If I tell you Naruto, you must promise to keep it a secret. Keep it secret until it is safe for you to tell. Do you understand? Naruto nodded slowly. Softly, I understand Gigi, he uttered. Sarutobi took a seat back, lighting his pipe, and took a few puffs to try to soothe his nerves. It took him a few moments before he spoke. To begin with, Naruto, it's time to explain the significance of your name, he stated. Your last name, Uzumaki, was not given to you arbitrarily. It was your mother's last name, and it was the name of the Uzumaki clan of Uzushiogakure no Sato, he continued. That caused Naruto's eyes to widen with surprise. He said, I have a clan. The aged Hokage gave a small shake of his head. It's not that simple, Naruto. At one point the Uzumaki were a great and powerful clan, the predominant clan of their village. They were cousins to the Senju clan, the same clan our Shodai and Nidaime Hokages come from. The two clans had a strong friendship, supporting each other through the founding of their villages. Konoha shinobi to this day still wears the emblem of the Uzumaki clan on their flak jackets and uniforms as a symbol of friendship and remembrance for our allies. Naruto asked, what happened to the Uzumaki? Jealousy and fear, the Hokage replied. The Uzumaki clan was known for their long lifespans and powerful willpower and life forces. They were also known for their amazing skills in Fuinjutsu. And Uzumaki could utilize seals in combat that no other shinobi or village could even dream of doing. This made them highly respected by their allies, and highly feared by anyone who might be considered their enemies. And this is what led to the near-total destruction of the Uzumaki clan and the destruction of Uzushiogakure no Sato. It was right before the end of the Second Shinobi War. Uzu's shinobi had been defending our right flank from shinobi from Kiri and were aiding us in holding off Kumo shinobi, while most of our forces were concentrated on fighting Iwa's shinobi. What we didn't know was that our enemies were planning a massive attack. A large force of shinobi from Kumo and Iwa was secretly gathered behind their lines and sent by sea to Kiri. And from there, they launched a sudden surprise invasion on the village of Uzu. Naruto's fists balled up in anger and he trembled. Quietly, he said, what happened when they landed? Sarutobi took a slow drag from his pipe before responding. A battle the likes which had not been seen since the time of the Rakudo Sennin. The combined invasion force outnumbered Uzu's defensive forces almost 4-1, even when Uzu called back their own forces to help defend their home, leaving Konoha to hold the line here on the mainland. But even with their overwhelming numbers, the invasion force found themselves in the battle for their lives. The Uzumaki clan had built their defenses well, with numerous trap seals and defensive seals protecting their home. And even when these were overcome, the shinobi of Uzu refused to give in. For every one of them who fell, they took at least 3 enemies with them. What Kumo, Kiri, and Iwa thought would be a quick and decisive strike turned into a 4-day battle that almost wiped out both sides of the conflict. In the end, Uzushiogakure no Sato was destroyed, and the survivors scattered across the elemental nations. But 9/10 of the invasion force that attacked them were killed or crippled beyond the ability to fight again. Faced with such heavy losses, Iwa, Kiri, and Kumo were forced to agree to the armistice agreement between themselves, Suna, and Konoha. The shinobi of Konoha vowed to honor our greatest ally, by always wearing their symbol, to show our allegiance to those who gave us salvation through their sacrifice. There was a long pause before Naruto looked up, slightly angry and confused. But if Konoha values their memory so much, why haven't I heard of my clan before now? And why hasn't anyone recognized me as a member of the clan, if I bear their name? Sarutobi let out a soft sigh. It was the civilian council, though they did not do it intentionally. Tobirama Senju, the Nidaime Hokage, created the civilian council to ensure everyone in Konoha had a voice. While his intentions were good, I feel that time has shown that his choice was wrong. The civilian council, after the Second Shinobi War, was called upon to help find ways of reducing money spent in Konoha, to bolster our post-war funds. One of their first suggestions was to modify the academy curriculum, to cut out some of the lessons they viewed as superfluous. The majority of the clan council tried to negate this proposition, but the civilian council found an ally in the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan has been bitter rivals of the Senju and Uzumaki clans, and in their eyes, if they could make Konoha forget about the Uzumaki, so much the better. That is why you have not heard of your clan before today. The civilians know little or nothing about the clan. And while the shinobi do know about the clan, they do not know you're a member of it. The Uzumaki clan was known for their deep red hair, and since you were blonde, they cannot make the connection. And please don't be upset about this, but remember that they also have little reason to talk to you, he said softly. Naruto shuddered a little and then sighed in defeat. At last, he said, "Thank you, Gigi-san. Thank you for telling me about my clan. But now can you tell me about my parents, please?" Sarutobi gave a quiet nod. "I will, Naruto, but again, you must promise me that you won't tell anyone what I'm going to tell you. Not yet at least. Swear, that as a future shinobi of Konoha, and as an assassin in training, that you will not tell anyone what I'm going to tell you, until you are strong enough to defend yourself against your parents' enemies." Naruto gave it some thought and then nodded slowly. "I swear on my life as a future shinobi of Konoha, and as an assassin recruit, that I will not reveal the truth about my parents' identities until I am strong enough to defend myself," quietly he said. "Thank you, Naruto. First off, your mother. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, and she was a member of the Uzumaki clan. She had been brought here to Konoha for a special reason. A reason that I cannot reveal to you at this time. Please trust me on this, alright?" He turned to Naruto. Sarutobi got up and moved to one of the bookcases, taking a book out, while Naruto gave a numb nod. After opening it and turning the pages, he placed it down in front of him. He began, "This is one of the older shinobi registry books in Konoha," and then pointed to an ID picture on the page in front of them. "And this is your mother, Kushina Uzumaki." Naruto's eyes widened as he looked down at the questioned picture. The majority of the shinobi ID photos showed different men and women dressed as Konoha shinobi, but with small personal touches to give them a more distinctive look. They also wore either modest smiles or serious expressions. Not his mother, though. Not Uzumaki Kushina. When compared to the others, she was a sore thumb. The image in question showed a woman with long red hair and blue, almost purple eyes winking at the camera while wearing a wide smile and striking a victory pose with her left hand raised. She was dressed in a short, sleeved orange coat over a long, sleeved red top with flared sleeves that would normally cover her hands. She had on a black combat skirt, red zori sandals, and black stockings that reached her thighs. Her red forehead protector, wrapped around her neck, and the large scroll on her back, too, completed her ensemble. Naruto smiled slightly and blinked. "She's my mom?" Sarutobi gave a quiet laugh. "Yes, that's Kushina alright. You inherited quite a bit from her. Your personality and your facial structure, for instance. I've always thought you looked like a male version of Kushina, minus the red hair and eyes." "Those you got from your father," he replied. With eagerness, Naruto glanced up at him. He said, "And who was he?" The old Hokage let out a soft sigh. "Your father Awela, this is somewhat difficult, Naruto. Your father is Minato Namikaze, also known as the Yondaime Hokage." Naruto sat there frozen, gazing at the elderly man. His brain did not seem to be able to process what he had just been told. Before speaking at all, he stood motionless for a few minutes. What? Sarutobi put his hand lightly on his shoulder. "Naruto, your father is the Yondaime Hokage. The one who defeated the Kyuubi 9 years ago," he stated. "Your father also almost single-handedly ended the Third Shinobi War when he defeated 500 Iwa shinobi by himself. Most Iwa shinobi view your father with a hatred beyond reason." Naruto shuddered a little. And that's why you didn't let me know who my parents were, right?" He returned to his desk and withdrew a few scrolls. "Yes, Naruto. But you are correct as well. You have the right to know who your parents are. And I do believe you're responsible enough to keep it a secret. I have a few things for you," he muttered. "After your parents died, I found several scrolls sitting on the Hokage's desk here. One was a heavily protected scroll, which may contain the necessary instructions and notes regarding the jutsu and abilities your parents were most famous for. The other 2 scrolls were these here, simple storage scrolls that contained things of a more personal nature. A letter stated that these 2 were to be given to you when you were old enough to understand what was inside them. The more heavily protected seal was to be given to you when you became a Chunin. Since you now know about your parents, I think it is time that you had these," he said, as he handed the 2 storage scrolls over to Naruto. When Naruto saw the names of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze on each scroll, he shook and took them. With closed eyes, he gave them a slow, firm hug. His eyes started to well up with silent tears as he started to shake. Sarutobi's heart went out to the boy, and he leaned over and put his hand on his shoulder. Sarutobi tried to console Naruto, but the boy just kept crying as he hugged the scrolls. After a few minutes, Naruto was able to gather his thoughts and raised his head to face Sarutobi. He muttered, "Thank you, Gigi," with a tiny smile on his face. Sarutobi patted the boy's shoulder and simply nodded. "Naruto, you're welcome," he said. "Now, why don't you and I go enjoy some Ichiraku ramen? As a sort of secret celebration of you learning about your family? Naruto gave a headshake. Yeah, I think I'd like to go home. And maybe start looking through these, if you don't mind, he said with a smile. The elderly Hokage simply nodded in comprehension. Of course, my boy. Buddha, before you go, I need you to understand something. I am sorry for keeping this a secret from you, but I was doing it to try and protect you. And there is still one more secret involving you, Naruto. One that I cannot tell you at this time. I know that seems unfair, he said as he watched the child get nervous, and I know you believe that if it involves you, then you should know. But this particular secret, Naruto, you're not ready for it yet. Please believe me, Naruto, this is a secret that has to wait. Naruto cast a sidelong glance. Silently, for how long, he inquired. When you're a genin, Naruto. That is when I'll tell you. The day after you graduate from the academy, and are wearing your own forehead protector, I'll tell you this final secret, alright? Naruto stood and gave a quiet nod. Thank you so much for this, he muttered, gesturing to the scrolls. With that, Naruto carefully put the scrolls in his pocket before rushing off, and for telling me about who I am, and where I come from. Thank you. Sarutobi, depleted and worn out beyond belief, let out a long, shuddering breath as he did and sat down. He felt a slight sense of satisfaction as he slowly raised his head to look at the portrait of the fourth Hokage. He gave a small smile and went back to work. Itachi Uchiha was quietly meditating in the backyard of his family's house across town, under a tree. Due to constant mental turmoil over the previous 2 years, he found himself doing a lot. He had been spying on his clan for the previous 2 years, sharing intelligence about the coup attempt. As it was, only a tiny fraction of the clan knew about the planned takeover. This included the heads of several of the more well-known families in the clan, including the father of Kaseki Uchiha, and his father Fugaku. But according to the intelligence Itachi had gathered, they were almost prepared to begin advising the other shinobi in the clan and organizing their swift and forceful attack to overthrow Konoha's government and install their own. As if meeting someone intriguing on a recent mission wasn't reason enough to give the 16-year-old a lot of weight. A man with long black hair, posing as Madara Uchiha, the man who nearly brought Hashirama Senju to a halt at the Valley of the End and company founder of Konoha, was seen wearing an orange spiral mask. Sincerely, Itachi was taken aback by the discussion the two had. Retrospection, the man in the mask said, "You do not need to fear me," as Itachi prepared for battle by gripping his tanto. "I'm not here to fight you." Itachi did not change his position. "You claim to be Madara Uchiha, a traitor to Konoha," he stated. The man in the mask snorted. "So that means you have to try and fight me in some deluded sense of loyalty to the village? Pathetic. Spare me your deluded fantasies of serving the village. I'm here to help you." "What can I help you with?" Itachi asked, staring the so-called Madara down. The masked man cocked his head. "Dealing with your clan, of course. I know they're going to betray Konoha. Considering their history of betraying those in charge, it's not a surprise. So, I'm willing to offer my help in dealing with the clan." Itachi tightened his hold on his tanto. "Why would you want to help Konoha? You betrayed it." Madara merely gave a shrug. "I'm a petty man. I view the clan's betrayal of me to be greater than Konoha's. One betrayer at a time. Now do you want my help or not?" Itachi merely observed him for a few moments before responding. "What can you possibly offer me?" Beneath the mask, he could almost feel the man's smile. "Oh, I can teach you things beyond your wildest dreams. But it comes with a price." Uchiha prodigy. "And what price would that be?" "You come and serve me as a member of Akatsuki when the clan has been dealt with," Madara uttered in a straightforward manner, while a single Sharingan eye peered through the opening in his spiral mask. Flashback comes to an end. Itachi had reported this new development to the Hokage. Although Sarutobi had been skeptical of the man's identity, he was compelled to take into account the potential threat this man could pose, regardless of his identity as Madara, especially after Itachi brought up the Akatsuki group. Sarutobi had contacted Jiraiya regarding this matter, and Itachi had provided the Sannin spymaster with all the data he could. Itachi experienced tension from everything piling up around him. His father's constant pressure to excel, his obligation to spy on his clan for the village, his Anbu captain responsibilities, and now this business with this man posing as Madara. The young Uchiha felt as though it was too much to bear. Really, all he wanted was to live a quiet life with his fiancée and family. After witnessing the destruction and deaths of the Third Shinobi War, Itachi detested fighting and war. He was eager to spy on his clan for Konoha in part because of this. He wanted to do everything in his power to stop the coup because he knew it would result in the same amount of death and destruction. Itachi opened his eyes with a weary smile on his face as he felt someone sit next to him. He whispered, "I haven't seen you in a while," before leaning in to give his fiancée copyright Kaseki a kiss. With a slight smile, Kaseki gave Itachi a hug and slightly intensified their kiss before putting her head on his shoulder. The now Special Junin-ranked Kunoichi stated, "I'm glad to be back home, though. I was out on an escort mission to Kusa." Her bangs barely covered her headband when her long hair was pulled up into a high ponytail that reached almost to her mid-back. She continued to wear a long, sleeved blue top with the Uchiha fan emblem on the back, but her black skirt had been replaced with a shorter miniskirt and shorts underneath. She also wore fingerless gloves and toeless boots in the Kunoichi style. She had also trained in Kenjutsu and learned how to use a pair of tanto in combat. Itachi nuzzled her gently and nodded. Silently, he remarked, "Everything's been pretty hectic lately. I feel like I'm being stretched out too much." Kaseki gave him a worried glance. "Perhaps you ought to take a little time off," she muttered. "You need to be careful. Anbu has one of the highest rates of mental breakdowns and suicides." "I am aware," he muttered. "I'll see if I can get some light duties from now on. As it stands, I have 3 days off." At that, Kaseki gave a slight smile. She smiled and said, "Then let's spend it wisely, yes?" Before giving him a long, slow kiss. Itachi put his arms around her waist and grabbed her shoulders to bring her closer to him. Now that she was straddling him, she smiled. She said in a somewhat hushed voice, "A bit forward, aren't we?" Itachi simply returned the small smile. He responded, "And you know you enjoy it," before they started kissing once more. Everything in the world seemed right for a while. That satisfied Itachi's needs for the time being. After 2 days with a grunt, Naruto rolled away from a jab that his sparring partner had thrown at him. He stood up, parried another blow, then swung a right hook in her direction. As Naruto extended into his punch, Hinata threw back his head and spun around, attempting to hit him in the side. Naruto moaned as he wrenched his body to the left to stay clear of her, experiencing some discomfort in the process. As Hinata reverted to her stance, he regained his footing and waited for her next move, only for Yugito to intervene and stand between the two, stopping them. "That's enough," she uttered, observing the two as they gradually eased out of their positions. "Naruto, you're overextending your punches, putting too much force behind them. Remember, power doesn't do you any good if you leave yourself wide open to an attack." With a quiet nod of acceptance, Naruto pulled down the hood of his assassin recruit tunic and wiped some perspiration from his brow. Before getting some water, the two bowed to each other to indicate that the spar was over. Hinata looked at Naruto as they sat down to catch their breath. After what had happened a few days prior, she was a little concerned about Naruto. Naruto had been taken by an Anbu to the Hokage, and Shikamaru had told her that he had never come back to the academy since. After visiting his apartment, she had not received a response. He had appeared at the academy the following day, but he was incredibly silent and solemn. He had told her nothing was wrong when she had asked what was wrong, but he was thinking about a lot of things. But she was still concerned about him even now. Even as he caressed Tomo tenderly, he still appeared to be very focused. With a soft whine, the young fox, who was obviously no longer in his kit, rubbed against his companion. When Hinata put a gentle hand on his shoulder, he turned to face her. Naruto-kun, are you sure you don't want to talk about what's bothering you? You seem so distant, she said gently. Even though it was difficult at first, her time with Naruto had helped her begin to overcome her confidence problems. Her father had persisted in disparaging her efforts, saying that she should lead by example as the Hyuga clan's heiress. She had to be a rock. Solid, self-assured, and resilient individual. He had been disparaging her at every opportunity since she did not live up to his expectations of what a clan heiress ought to be. Her time spent with Naruto was the only reason she hadn't fallen apart. She wanted to help him now, after everything he'd done for her. With a quiet sigh, Naruto turned to face her. Hinata, don't worry, I'm okay. I promise, he grinned in response. Just as she was going to reply, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. To Hinata and Naruto's surprise, Enko exclaimed, "The fun has returned," with great abandon. As soon as he got inside, Raphael shook his head. He said, "Enko, don't go giving them a heart attack," which made Enko sulk. He turned to face Hinata and Naruto and smiled. "How's your training going?" he inquired. Naruto stood up and nodded. He smiled lightly and said, "We're doing fine. Hinata nearly killed me today." Hinata flushed at that. She uttered a timid, I just caught you off guard is all." Raphael moved ahead of her. "In real combat, that's all it can take, Hinata-san. Remember that, both of you." After both of them nodded, Naruto spoke up. He inquired, "So how went your vacation?" Hinata was unaware of what Anko and Raphael had been up to, but he and Yugito were. They welcomed Hinata to train with them, but they didn't think it was a good idea to include her in any of their assassin activities or training. Anko just answered with a smile. She said, quietly alluding to her target's passing, "Oh, it was a blast. You could say the amount of fun could almost take one's breath away." Raphael said, "It was informative and relaxing," then turned to face Yugito and Naruto. "In fact, we're going to hold a little get-together tonight. At the usual place," he stated. Both of them nodded, but Hinata appeared perplexed. Sheepishly, Naruto smiled at her. "Sorry Hinata. It's something for our little group." Hinata merely gave a small nod. I understand, Naruto-kun. I do not mean to intrude." "Don't worry Hinata, you're not. Maybe in the future, I can tell you about all this," he replied. Raphael touched his shoulder at that moment. "Maybe you can Naruto. We'll see. For now, how have things been while Anko and I were gone?" He smiled. Sarutobi was in the Hokage's office, going over the papers that Anko and Raphael had brought back from their vacation. Though Kuroya Kyudo's assassination had not been authorized by the authorities, Sarutobi was not going to weep over it. For more than 30 years, the man had been selling weapons to various criminals and belligerents. Sarutobi's sole grievance was that he refused to appear before a jury and answer for the unlawful weapons he had sold. The old Hokage was focusing especially on two reports that Raphael had brought to his attention. One involved a letter that Kuroi and Gato of Gato Industries exchanged regarding the sale of weapons and their conveyance to an unidentified individual in Kiri. The second was an additional report about a buyer in the Land of Iron purchasing extra weapons. The first report was important because Kiri was currently being consumed by a full-fledged civil war. After being attacked by the Kiri Kagaya clan, the Yondaime Mizukage started a full-scale war against the Kiri bloodline wielders about 2 years ago. Since then, the nation has been engulfed in war as the bloodline wielders have retaliated in kind. Based on the report, it appeared that Kuroi and Gato had been providing arms to either faction. It was becoming increasingly clear that Gato posed a threat to the shinobi villages in light of all the additional information that had been discovered about him. This on top of the attempt to establish a business in Suna and the rumors of his goons setting up shop in the other big villages outside of Konoha. Gato would have to be taken care of, and quickly. He looked up to see Itachi Uchiha enter wearing his weasel Anbu mask. "You sent for me Hokage, Sama?" Sarutobi gave a nod. "I did. I need your latest report concerning those drug smugglers you were investigating." Itachi started his report while standing at attention. "Sadly, the news isn't good, Hokage. Sama. I'm afraid the smugglers will be expanding their operations soon. If we are to prevent an outbreak of their products, we must act soon. And I'm not entirely sure normal procedures will be useful." Quietly, the Hokage nodded. "I understand Weasel. Thank you for your report. I'd like you to return tomorrow for a follow-up debriefing." Sarutobi reclined and Itachi bowed his head before turning to go. His worst fears were validated by the coded message. All of their clan's shinobi were about to be gathered by the Uchiha, who planned to tell them of the coup and begin their attack. Additionally, diplomatic outreach was doomed to fail. Sarutobi sighed, realizing he only had one option available to him. With a wave of his hand, one of his Anbu materialized in front of him. "Send messages to Homura, Kaharu, Danzo, and Raphael. Tell them to meet me here tomorrow morning." The troubled Hokage was left behind as the Anbu nodded and vanished. That evening there were several warehouses in Konoha's business district. The majority were in use by regional traders and shipping companies. However, a few were for sale after being abandoned. Plate trader Zuhan Akindo was one of those warehouse owners, and his warehouse was stocked with cutlery, bowls, cups, and plates. Naturally, the man and the things inside the warehouse were a facade. Rafael Cortez was the real owner. He had bought the warehouse with money he had saved. And its actual function was to serve as the Konoha chapter of the Assassin Brotherhood's headquarters. The warehouse had been partitioned into 4 sections inside. When the weather wasn't ideal or the trainees wanted to be more covert, the bulk of the warehouse was used as a training area. A few sparring rings, training posts, and target dummies were present. The remainder of the warehouse was split up into 3 areas: an armory where their armor and weapons were stored and maintained, an office where Raphael maintained his files on possible targets that his slowly expanding spy network informed him about, and a meeting hall where the assassins would congregate on significant occasions. Similar to what was going on right now. Both Naruto and Yugito, dressed in their recruit uniforms, faced each other and left enough room for someone to pass between them. Right now, Raphael was standing on an elevated dais, close to a big brazier that held lit coals. Anko Mitarashi started to come forward from the back of the room, and Raphael watched. Anko's assassin outfit, specially tailored for her, had taken the place of her recruit uniform. It was a tan battle dress with a slanted skirt that ended at her right thigh and slanted down to her left mid-shin. The battle dress was fastened with a row of buttons down the front. The dress was sleeveless with a deep plunging neckline and featured the classic peaked assassin hood. She had on a mesh bodysuit with short legs and sleeves underneath. Her attire featured a dull orange sash covering her midsection, topped off with a belt featuring supply pouches and a belt buckle adorned with the assassin emblem. Her usual blue zori, a pair of dull white greaves, and the concealed blade bracer she wore on her left hand, 3, completed her ensemble. Anko walked over to the dais where Raphael was standing, paused in front of him, and bowed slightly, covering her heart with her right hand. Raphael spoke while Naruto and Yugito faced forward. Anko Mitarashi, recruit of the Konoha Assassin Brotherhood. You stand before your brothers and sisters, an example to them. You have completed your training, and now stand ready to join the ranks of the assassins as a full member. Do you promise to uphold the tenets and axiom of our creed? Anko gave a small nod. I swear. He motioned to a spot beside him and said, then please join me. Raphael turned to face the others as Anko moved beside him. La Shea Wakiun Moutlak Bail Kulun Momkine. 4. The wisdom of our creed is revealed through these words. Where other men blindly follow the truth, remember. Together, Naruto and Yugito said, nothing is true. Where other men are limited by morality and law, remember. Everything is permitted. Raphael motioned for Anko to extend her left hand, her ring finger out, and he took slowly out a pair of blacksmith's ring tongs, the end of which was burning hot from the coals. She winced as the heated tongs began to burn her ring finger as he slowly pressed them around it. Raphael spoke again as he released her finger. We work in the darkness, to serve the light. We are assassins. Anko flexed her finger gently. There was now a burn surrounding it, reminiscent of the period when assassins cut off their ring fingers as a sign of their dedication to the Brotherhood. This symbol represents the assassin's commitment. Raphael pointed to the ladder that led to the roof at the back of the warehouse. Quietly nodding, Anko and the other ascended the ladder and emerged onto the roof. Knowing that this was the final step in her initiation, Anko carefully stepped out onto the narrow platform that Raphael had added to the edge. Shutting her eyes, she opened her arms and leapt with grace, tumbling to land in front of a hay cart that Raphael had successfully retrieved below. She did a backflip once and landed in the hay cart, shaking loose hay strands from her clothing and hay. Raphael smiled down at her as she looked up at him. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Anko Mitarashi. The dull thuds and smacks of wood hitting wood echoed through the secret assassin hideout, as Raphael and Naruto were currently sparring with wooden training swords. Raphael easily parried a hasty lunge from Naruto and whirled his sword around with practiced ease, lightly touching Naruto's neck. Dead. Again, he said calmly. Naruto let out a disappointed grunt and resumed his position, attacking again. Raphael blocked a few blows then went on the offensive, forcing Naruto back. The young assassin recruit managed to sidestep a downward slash, attacking at Raphael's arm while he was overbalanced, only for Raphael to roll away and strike Naruto's legs lightly. Crippling blow, he said. Naruto groaned, slumping in disappointment, as Raphael stood. Sorry sensei, he said softly. Raphael sighed as he stood. Naruto, you cannot expect to be a skilled swordsman after only a few months of practice. It takes time and dedication. So cheer up. You're getting better. Naruto nodded as he stood again, ready to face Raphael. As their blades clashed, Raphael continued to lecture. Remember Naruto, a swordsman must be balanced. Strength is nothing without the skill to focus it. Skill is nothing without the speed to enact it. Speed is nothing without the strength to empower it. You must possess all three of these, not just one or two. Naruto nodded, wiping some sweat from his eyes, as he tried to focus. Raphael nodded approvingly as they continued to spar. Nearby, Anko was watching them as she did a bit of maintenance on her hidden blade bracer. Kid has really come along, hasn't he, Kitty? Chan? She teasingly asked, glancing at the blonde woman. Yugito didn't respond, as she seemed intent on staring at the pair of katars in her hands. Anko glanced at her face, and saw a few tears silently falling from Yugito's eyes. Hey Yugito, you okay? She asked, touching the girl's shoulder. Yugito's head shot up, before she hastily set aside the weapons and wiped the tears from her eyes. I'm sorry, what? she asked hastily, turning back to Anko. Anko set aside her bracer as she looked at Yugito with concern. What's wrong? She asked softly, as Yugito looked away. It's nothing, she said in a muffled tone, sheathing the twin katars in the special hip sheaths attached to her belt. Before she could move off though, Anko had stopped her. Yugito, you know you can talk to me, right? I'm here for you. We all are, she replied. Yugito looked up at her, trembling a bit, before gently leaning against Anko, her head down. Can you call the others over? She asked softly. Anko just blinked in surprise before turning and calling Raphael and Naruto over. When they arrived, Naruto worriedly tugged on Yugito's arm. Yugito Chan, what's wrong? He asked. Yugito smiled as she gently ruffled Naruto's hair after pulling his hood down. I think it's time you all learned why I was so willing to betray Kumo, she whispered softly. Please, make yourselves comfortable. As they did so, she quietly began. When I was barely a baby, I was given a special power, if you will, she explained. She couldn't inform Naruto of the fact that she was the Nibi Jinchuriki, but Anko and Raphael both knew. This gift had the potential to make me a very powerful kunoichi, one that could increase Kumo's power. So naturally, they wanted to make sure I was well trained. That wouldn't have been a bad thing, except for the way they wanted to train me. They wanted to take me away from my family at a very young age, and isolate me, focus all of my time and energy into training me until I was strong enough. I would have no friends, no contact with my family, nothing at all. So naturally my parents, despite being skilled shinobi of the village, weren't exactly happy with that plan. She sighed softly as she reached into a pocket and slowly produced the picture she had looked at in her apartment when she first arrived in Konoha. The picture of the younger self with her parents. They approached my parents on my 4th birthday. I remember them talking to my parents seeming upset, and then them leaving. And that's when everything changed, for the worst, she murmured. My parents refused to let me go. They had waited so long for a child, and to have their first one ripped away was too much, and they knew that what waited for me would be as close to torture as you could get. So they tried to flee with me, to protect me. She handed the picture to them, so they could see it. It took me a while to remember what happened next. They sent 5 squads of shinobi after us. 5 squads, just for me. My parents never stood a chance. They tried to hide me, so I wouldn't see what happened. Buddha. Tears escaped her eyes as she turned away. 13 years ago today, I watched as my parents were executed by Kumo shinobi, for being traitors to the village. My parents were called traitors because they wanted to protect me. Raphael and Anko both were about to reach out to her, but were beaten by Naruto, who hugged her. Yugito looked down at him as he buried his face against her stomach, as he hugged her tightly. Yugito gently hugged him back, holding him close, as she looked up at the others. That is why I abandoned Kumo, she said. They found me when I rushed out to my parents' bodies. They tried to suppress my memories, and put me through the training they intended for me. But I remembered what happened. And I swore that I would get my revenge on Kumo. Anko gently placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry Yugito. What happened to you? That's so horrible, she replied. Yugito just nodded, as tears fell from her eyes, as Anko hugged her as well. She slowly broke down, and began to sob, as the emotional dam she had put up finally broke, and she slumped against Anko, sobbing heavily. Raphael sighed softly, watching Anko and Naruto comfort Yugito. He touched Anko's shoulder, and when she glanced at him, he nodded towards a nearby bench. Anko nodded as she guided Yugito over there. Naruto let go as Anko sat down with Yugito, letting the girl keep sobbing against her. When Yugito's sobs slowed, and she began to calm down, Raphael slowly knelt in front of her. Are you okay, Yugito? He asked quietly. Yugito nodded gently. Sorry, she said, wiping her eyes. I didn't mean to break down like that. Raphael smiled at her. Don't be, he said. You're human, just like the rest of us. You have emotions, feelings. And you've been through something horrible, he stated. Something all of us here know. We won't judge you, Yugito. We're here for you. We're like a family. Naruto piped up, causing them to look at him. We're here to help each other. Yugito just smiled weakly. Thanks, she said, as she finished wiping her eyes. Thank you guys. Raphael just nodded, before glancing at a nearby clock and sighing. I need to go. Urgent meeting with Hokage. Sama. Will you be okay, Yugito? Yugito gave a nod. Yes, mentor. I'll be fine, she said with a bit of a grin. Raphael grinned back. Drop the mentor bit. I'm not ready for the title yet, he said, as he headed off. Anko just grinned at Naruto, ruffling his hair. Family huh? Sounds about right, she said, as Naruto whined. Why does everyone ruffle my hair? He groaned, causing Yugito and Anko to just laugh. Laughter would have been something Sarutobi could use at the moment. The aged Hokage was not currently sitting in the office of the Hokage, but was sitting instead within one of the fortified bunkers within the Hokage's monument. In the event of emergency, a series of bunkers had been placed there to act as a refuge for those unable to fight. They also doubled as a fortified keep from which the shinobi of Konoha could make a final stand, including a secondary office for the Hokage, which was where Sarutobi was at. On either side of him sat his advisors Kaharu and Homura, with Danzo sitting on the other side of Homura. The quartet was currently waiting for Itachi and Raphael to be escorted here secretly by Anbu stationed at the Hokage's tower. Homura glanced at his former teammate and now leader. Hiruzen, I have to question you asking for that assassin Raphael to join us for this meeting, is it wise? Sarutobi turned his head slightly to look at Homura. I believe it is, he said quietly. I am hoping that a peaceful solution might yet still be reached with the discontent members of the Uchiha clan, but I am preparing for the worst. And since this is a situation that must be handled quietly, I feel the services and advice of a man who has mastered the art of ending people's lives with stealth and discretion is invaluable. Don't you? Homura just sat back quietly, while Danzo now added his input. Sarutobi, peace at this point is irrelevant. After 2 years, Fugaku has not and will not change his mind. We need to forego any chance at diplomacy and simply end this. I will not order the deaths of people and shinobi under my command and protection unless there is no alternative, Sarutobi said to Danzo. These are people, the same as us, Danzo. I will not treat them as kunai or shogi pieces to cast aside when it suits me. Danzo just impassively watched him, as the door opened. In walked Itachi in his full Anbu armor and with weasel mask in place, followed by Raphael who was blinking a bit. I will never get used to that shunshin, he said, as he stood next to Itachi, and bowed with him. Sarutobi sighed softly, leaning forward. What is said here is not to be discussed with anyone outside this room, in front of anyone. Understood? He asked everyone in the room. Itachi, please remove your mask. As Itachi did so, Sarutobi leaned back. 2 years ago, Itachi Uchiha informed me that elements of the Uchiha clan were planning a coup attempt against the position of Hokage, with the intent of taking over the village. In that time, I have made subtle attempts at diplomacy towards the leader of this coup, Fugaku Uchiha. According to Itachi, all attempts have failed, he stated. His most recent report has indicated that the elements involved will soon be ready to begin informing the rest of the clan of their plan. Sadly, I fear the rest of the clan may join them, feeling loyalty to their clan above the village. Raphael blinked in surprise. So what do you intend to do, Hokage? Sama? He inquired. That is what I called this meeting for. We need to resolve this situation, but in a way that does not hurt the village any more than it has to, Sarutobi stated. At that moment, Danzo leaned forward slightly. The solution is simple, Sarutobi. The Uchiha clan must be eliminated. If we strike now, we can neutralize the threat before it can get out of control. Itachi tensed at that, while Raphael balked. What do you mean eliminate the clan? You mean kill all of them? Danzo's one visible eye narrowed a bit as he looked at Raphael. We must ensure that the threat to Konoha's safety is eliminated. We cannot chance that such an uprising will happen again. Raphael growled in anger. Are you mad? You're talking about slaughtering people who have no idea what is even going on. Are the children of the clan who aren't even shinobi yet a threat to the village? Or the infants? The elderly, infirmed? The civilians in the clan, are they all threats? As Itachi pointed out in his reports, members plotting this coup are civilians within the Uchiha clan. And so long as one Uchiha remains, so does the threat, Danzo stated. You are an assassin, Raphael Dotsan, a killer. Surely you understand the need to ensure the job is done. The assassin just glared at Danzo. What I understand is killing those who deserve it, Danzo, killing those who are an actual threat to the safety and well-being of others. What you are proposing is genocide. You want to slaughter everyone in the clan for the simple crime of being associated by name and blood with a few who are a threat to the village. Most of those people in the clan are still currently loyal to the village, and you would slaughter them just because their last name is Uchiha. I really wonder who the threat to the village is, them or you. Danzo bristled, and was about to retort, when Homura spoke up. If I may, there is another reason why it might not be a good idea to kill the entirety of the clan, he said, adjusting his glasses. If it was ever found out that we took action against an entire clan like this, even in defense of the village, the other clans might become nervous, and even start to wonder if they are safe within the village. It might be best to try and subtly deal with only the current members of the coup, before they have a chance to bring the whole of the Uchiha clan into this. I agree, Kaharu spoke up next. The village must remain strong. If we take out the whole of the Uchiha clan without justification of doing so, we leave the village weakened. If we can spare the majority of the clan, it will leave Konoha strong, and not give our enemies reason to think us weak. We're still recovering from the Kyuubi attack, and we do not need another incident like the one with the Kumo ambassador, she stated. Danzo looked at them all, before sitting back. There is some truth to your words, Kaharu-san. Perhaps my judgment was hasty, he said, though anyone could tell he didn't believe the words he said. Sarutobi gave a nod. Then our path is clear. We must deal with the current leaders of the coup, before they can spread their plan to the rest of their clan. Itachi, how many are part of the planning of this coup attempt? Itachi silently produced a scroll. Currently there are at least 7 members of the coup attempt, counting Fugaku Uchiha. 3 of the other 6 are shinobi, with the last 3 being civilians. Sarutobi took the scroll, opening it and reading it. I see it, then we'll need to eliminate these 7 people. But it must be done silently. Raphael, since this is your area of expertise, what would you suggest? He inquired. Raphael blinked, as all eyes settled on him. It was a bit unnerving, considering Sarutobi and his advisors probably had far more life experience than him. Well, it would be extremely difficult to kill all of them quietly within the walls of the Uchiha district, especially the 4 shinobi on that list, he replied. So we need to divide them up, and take them out at the same time. If we could lure Fugaku and other members of the coup to a meeting, we could offer him a final chance at diplomacy. And should he refuse, we kill him then and there. Meanwhile, I would suggest allowing Enko-san and perhaps Yugito-san to infiltrate the Uchiha district and finish off the stragglers, though their deaths should look like natural causes rather than them being murdered. Danzo watched Raphael with grudging respect, before speaking. A sound plan, but what about those who come to the meeting with the Hokage? Their deaths will look suspicious, won't they? Raphael gave a nod. Yes, they will. But other than somehow sending the shinobi on missions and killing them out in the field, I can't see another way of doing it without negatively affecting the village. I can, Itachi said quietly. We will make it seem like I forged the Hokage's handwriting to lure my father and the others to the meeting. The shinobi who have agreed to my father's plan so far are among the most powerful in the clan. I will write a note and leave it in my bedroom, making it appear that I've grown disillusioned with the village, and seeking to test my power. I lured the most powerful members of the clan so I could test my limits against them. Afterwards, I will flee the village, as a missing nin, quietly stated. Homura and Kaharu's eyes were wide in shock, while Danzo studied Itachi with approval in his eye. Sarutobi quietly leaned forward, studying Itachi. You realize that if you do this, your clan and Konoha will view you as a traitor. Your mother, brother, and fiancé copyright will come to hate you, he continued. Itachi bowed his head slightly. I know, Hokage. Sama. But I cannot put myself ahead of the safety of this village. This needs to be done, he said quietly. Very well then, Sarutobi said quietly. Due to one of these targets being out of the village currently, this operation will begin at the end of the week. What has been spoken here is an SS. Ranked secret, and cannot be shared without expressed authorization of the Hokage. Danzo, Homura, and Kaharu, you are dismissed. Itachi, Raphael, please stay so we can plan the finer details of this mission. As the 3 advisors left, Raphael turned to Itachi, sorrow in his eyes. Itachi-san, surely there must be another way. We could disguise ourselves as 4 ninja, kill them that way, he replied. No, we can't, Itachi said. If we did that, we would risk starting a war with another power. For the sake of the village, I must do this. Sarutobi smiled sadly. Truly, the will of fire burns in you, Itachi. You would have made an incredible Hokage. Itachi merely bowed in thanks at the Hokage's words. The aged Hokage merely let out a sigh. If we're going to go through with your plan, Itachi, then I have a mission for you outside of Konoha. You spoke to me of Thisa Madara Uchiha. I want you to join his organization, and spy on them for us. Do you accept this mission? The Uchiha gave a single nod in response. Of course, Hokage. Sama. Good. Now, since I'm assuming you and Raphael will be handling Fugaku and the Uchiha at the meeting, we'll need someone inside the Uchiha district to help Anko and Yugito get in, as well as help you keep track of the various targets. Itachi, is there anyone you believe will help us? Itachi thought for a moment, before speaking. Shisui Uchiha. He was asked to spy on me recently by my father. But he has confided in me that he is disturbed by the way my father has been acting lately. He is devoted to the village, and will do what it takes to protect it, he stated. The aged Hokage smiled. Good then. Quietly discuss all this with him. But be careful, Itachi, just in case. With Itachi's nod of confirmation, Sarutobi turned back to Raphael. Now, let's discuss how Yugito and Enko will take care of their targets within the district. Uchiha District. Sasuke Uchiha panted softly, as the massive fireball he had spewed from his mouth dissipated, with steam rising from the lake he had unleashed it over. Next to him, his father nodded approvingly. You did well, Sasuke. I am impressed, Fugaku said. But remember, you must never relax, never relent. As Uchiha, you are part of a clan that is the strongest in the elemental nations. We Uchiha are descended from the sage of six paths himself. And as such, you must reflect that image and heritage. Sasuke gave a nod. I understand, Dad. I promise I'll become the best Uchiha ever. The head of the Uchiha clan gave a satisfied nod. That's good, son. Never forget that goal. Now, let us return home. Sasuke smiled happily, before rushing over to his mom who's standing nearby. Did you see, Mom? I did it. Makoto Uchiha, dressed in a purple long-sleeved shirt and light tan dress, smiled at her son. I saw, Sasuke. That was really well done, she stated. I'll make sure to make you a special treat to celebrate when we get home. Sasuke grinned happily as he rushed ahead, with Makoto watching him, before turning as Fugaku joined her. The clan head was frowning a bit. You spoil him, he said. And you don't give him enough credit or help, she said, her own smile gone. You did nothing to help him learn that technique, and abandoned him when he didn't get it as fast as you wanted. Now that he has it down thanks to mine and Itachi's help, you're all happy to see him again. Fugaku glared a bit at her. Self-reliance is important in a shinobi, especially a Uchiha. We do not need help from anyone. Makoto shook her head. We are part of a shinobi village, Fugaku. We cannot go through this world believing we don't need anyone. It'll make us hated by our allies, and make us easy targets for our enemies. Fugaku just scoffed. I can't believe I'm hearing those words come from your mouth. What happened to the girl I met at the academy, who was just as proud of being a Uchiha as I am? Makoto mentally cringed, as she remembered her younger self. In the academy, she had been just as arrogant as Fugaku was now, believing in what her parents had told her. That had all changed when Kushina Uzumaki crushed her in a spar. She had tried to get back at Kushina for her loss, leading to the development of a rivalry that continued to their team assignments, when they were teamed up with Shibi Aburame. Their sensei had tolerated their rivalry for a time, before letting them go at each other in a full-out spar. The two beat each other black and blue, and were left nearly unconscious. They ended up sharing a room in the hospital as they recovered from their spar, and somehow ended up talking to each other about various things. When they left the hospital, one would have thought they had been best friends for life. Makoto looked Fugaku in the eyes. I realized the truth, Fugaku, that we were kidding ourselves, allowing arrogance to override common sense. We cannot rely on a bloodline and heritage to make us strong, we must become strong ourselves. After all, if I remember correctly, weren't you defeated by Kushina in your first Chunin exams? Fugaku growled angrily. That bitch only won because of what she held, he said. Makoto just shook her head. I don't want to see our son die because he arrogantly believes he will always be the best. Itachi is probably the strongest shinobi in our clan, and he got there through hard work. Fugaku just turned away, starting to walk off. Maybe he is, but soon it won't matter, he half muttered to himself, while Makoto blinked as she heard him. What was that? She asked, as Fugaku stopped, before shaking his head. Nothing. Let's just go home. With that he headed forward, as Makoto blinked, worried about what her husband meant by his words. Hyuga compound. Next day Hiyashi Hyuga looked at the three elders before him. May I ask why you three have called this meeting? He inquired. One of them calmly bowed his head. Hiyashi. Sama, we have come to express concerns about reports we've been hearing, regarding your eldest daughter. Hiyashi's eyes narrowed at the mention of Hinata. And what exactly is it that you've heard? The only female elder of the group spoke this time. We have it on good authority that she has been associating with those whose standing in the village are less than befitting that of our clan's image. The former apprentice of Orochimaru, Enko Mitarashi for one. That woman has no public decency, and will corrupt Hinata. The other is far worse though, as she has been seen in the company of its container. Hiyashi's face was emotionless as he listened to them. I see. I have not heard of such things. Where do you get this information from? He inquired. The final elder spoke up. From members of the clan who have seen her associating and training with them. Hiashi, you must deal with this before our image is further damaged by your daughter. It is bad enough she so far has not shown any excellence in the academy. It might be better to simply cut our losses with her, Hiashi, the first one said. She obviously is not main branch material, or even shinobi material. We should remove her from the program and simply put her into the branch family. Or better yet, remove her from the clan entirely, so as not to have her tarnish the image of strength of the main family of the Hyuga clan. Hiashi simply gave a small shake of his head. Unfortunately, the first option is unavailable to us. When the Hokage restored the previous curriculum of the academy, he also instituted a rule that no member of the academy may be removed without a proper hearing explaining the reasons why. And while she is not living up to the standards of our clan, she is doing well enough in the academy that we cannot simply remove her on a whim. However, I do agree that if she cannot show any form of improvement, she should be pushed into the branch family. As such, I will give her a final chance to prove herself. I will arrange for a spar to be witnessed by key members of the clan. If she performs acceptably, I will either assign her a tutor or again take control of her training. If she does poorly, I will place her into the branch family, where we can then control her actions outside of the academy. Is this acceptable? As the three elders nodded, Hiashi turned. Very well then. For now, let us turn to other more pressing matters. The trade contract with the silk merchant in Kusa is coming up, and we must ensure that everything goes smoothly, he said as the group left. The Konoha Academy three shadows stealthily bounded their way through the forested area of the academy training ground, making their way from cover to cover. As they neared a clearing, they stopped, hiding in cover. Naruto slowly peeked a bit around the corner of the tree, before turning to one of his fellow shadows and nodded to her. Hinata gave a nod back and activated her Byakugan. As her Dujutsu activated, her vision of the world altered. Now everything was colored in various shades of white and gray, except for her two companions near her, who were black in color with blue lines indicating their chakra systems running through their bodies. As she began scanning in all directions, she soon found three more people hiding nearby, guarding their objective. She slowly reached up, touching the radio strapped to her neck as she began whispering. There's one of them in the tree on the other side of the clearing, right above our target. A second is in the bush to our right. A dot and the third is hanging further back, she reported to Naruto and their third teammate. Naruto nodded as he turned to look where Ino was currently hiding, activating his own radio. Ino, can you see any of them? Ino scanned the area a bit, before nodding. Yep. I can see one of them, she said softly. Naruto smiled. So you want to show us that special move you keep bragging about? The one your dad showed you? Ino just gave a smirk in response as she quickly ran through a couple hand signs and held her hands out like she was framing her target within them. Shintenshi no Jutsu, she whispered, before her body slumped over. Her target, the enemy hiding in the tree, stiffened a bit, before grinning to themselves. Naruto saw Hinata give him a nod of confirmation, and he quickly jumped out into the clearing. Oi, anybody home? He called out, grinning. Almost immediately, a wooden kunai sailed from the bush to try and strike him, and Naruto skillfully dodged it, as Sasuke rushed out from the bush to engage him in a fight. Naruto grinned as he ducked under Sasuke's punch, landing a blow to Sasuke's stomach followed by an uppercut, sending him reeling back. Naruto was forced to duck though as a girl named Amy came rushing in, trying to clock Naruto so she could avenge her. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke growled and moved in as Naruto tripped Amy up. At that moment, Ino, in possession of one of their other classmates named Mumi, dropped down and grabbed their objective, a small flag. He quickly untied it from the post it was attached to, and tossed it to Hinata, who began sprinting away as Sasuke and Amy were distracted. At that moment though, Ino winced, feeling her control of Mumi slipping due to her small chakra reserves. She had barely learned her clan's signature jutsu, and could only use it for short periods of time. She was forced to return to her body, and a disoriented Mumi blinked. Huh! What a hey, the flag's gone, Mumi shouted. Sasuke and Amy both blinked at that, whirling to look at where the flag should be, and in that moment, Naruto bolted, with Ino following him swiftly. Sasuke immediately rushed after them, followed by Amy and Mumi. Naruto grinned as he saw Hinata far ahead of them, before glancing back to see their three opponents rushing after them. Sasuke was closing in, but the other two weren't able to catch up. Hinata soon burst through the trees, and rushed over to their fellow students, stopping in front of their Chunin instructor while holding the flag up. That's it. Team 1 wins. The Chunin called out, as Naruto, Ino, Sasuke, Amy, and Mumi came out of the trees. Naruto and Ino cheered, as Sasuke looked enraged, while Amy and Mumi were disappointed. This was another of the training exercises for the students at the academy. It was a simple game of capture the flag, but it was used to train teamwork, as well as strategy and tactics. It also taught them about how some missions would involve capturing secret enemy documents or other items, or defending them from enemies. The Chunin instructor nodded to them. Team 1, you did very well. Not only did you capture the flag, but all your teammates returned alive and unharmed, he stated. Team 2, you did manage to hold onto the flag for close to 20 minutes, which is impressive. However, you allowed the enemy to capture the flag and successfully return with it. Sasuke seethed angrily, glaring at Naruto. He couldn't believe he lost. It had to have been his teammates. They just got in the way. He growled, glaring at Mumi and Amy. The Chunin instructor glanced at the sun and nodded. That'll be it for today. We'll pick back up next Tuesday, he stated. This had been the 5th round of capture the flag today and they needed to return for their last lesson of the day. Ino sighed softly, stretching a bit. The last 2 years so far in the academy had been a bit of an eye-opener for her. Listening to her father's stories, she had thought it was all about heroic deeds, and how she'd get to meet some Prince Charming who would rescue her in battle, and they would fall in love and get married. But the reality so far had been quite different. The instructors put them through hard training. When they weren't inside listening to lectures, they were outside, training in taijutsu forms. Even after getting the moves down, they were told to constantly practice, to get what they called muscle memory. When she asked her dad about it, he told him it was where you trained your body to the point where it could almost react on its own. Your muscles would be trained to move and react exactly the way you needed them to during a fight. And it could be very important during battle if your mind was tired and you couldn't entirely think straight. They were also taught how to throw kunai and shuriken, and again it was constant practice and practice to get the movements and muscle memory down. And then there were all the various exercises and drills. The stealth exercises of hiding from each other, and occasionally hiding from the Chunin instructors. The teamwork exercises, like the D-ranked missions every other Friday. Or what they had just done, the simulated mission exercises. Ino would admit, she disliked being dirty and sweaty. She really did. But her father said it would be important, as it could save her life. So for now, she would put up with it. Once she graduated, she hoped she'd have plenty of time to be more lady. Like her mother, who was very graceful and elegant. Ahead of her, Naruto was grinning happily as he walked next to Hinata. You did incredible, Hinata. Chan, he said, causing the girl to blush. But I just ran with the flag, she said, not thinking she did much. Are you kidding? You're the one who scouted them out, plus you got away with the flag. You and Ino did all the hard work, Naruto said with a grin at her. All I did was distract them. Hinata smiled a little at his praise. I think what you did was hard work too, she replied. Nah, I just danced around a little, like this, he said, doing a bit of a goofy dance as they walked, causing Hinata to giggle. Naruto grinned at that. Your laugh is great, he said. Hinata blinked, blushing. What? She squeaked out. When you laugh. It's great. You seem so happy, he stated. Hinata just blushed more, scrunching her head down and raising her shoulders as if she could hide. Behind them though, Sasuke growled angrily as he glared at the happy pair. How dare they humiliate him like this? He was a Uchiha. He couldn't let his father down like this. He would have to train harder, prove he was the best. And next time, he couldn't rely on teammates. They were worthless. That girl Amy did nothing helpful, and the idiot Mumi allowed the Yamanaka girl to possess him. Sasuke looked over at Ino now, glaring at her as she was right in front of him. Decided to get a little payback, he walked a bit faster, bumping into her and knocking her over. Sneering, he just kept walking. Ino let out a yelp as she hit the ground, before looking up and glaring at Sasuke's retreating back. She winced a bit as well, feeling some pain in her palm. She looked at it, seeing she had scraped a bit of skin on a rock. She suddenly found herself in a shadow, and looked up, seeing Choji Akamichi there. She knew about him due to their fathers being friends, but she hadn't really ever interacted with him before. You okay? He asked kindly, offering her his hand. Ino blinked, before taking it and letting him help her up. Yeah, I'm alright. Hurt my hand a little, she said, wiping herself off, only to groan seeing some grass stains on her shorts. Choji smiled. I'm glad you're okay then, he said a bit shyly, before turning and walking off, joining Shikamaru Nara. Ino tilted her head, before calling out, "Thank you," to his retreating back. At that moment, her friend Sakura rushed over. "Ino, are you okay? I heard you yelp, and then that boy Choji was helping you up. What happened?" she inquired. Ino smiled a bit at her. "It's cool, Sakura. Just a little accident," she said with a smile. "Now come on, I feel like celebrating my being awesome." The girls giggled as they headed off. Uchiha compound, 3 days later. As evening fell over the village, Shisui Uchiha quietly watched over the Uchiha Junin Tekka, wondering how things had come to this. He had known that things were not as peaceful within the clan as he had wanted them to be when he had been asked to spy on Itachi by the clan head Fugaku, but what Itachi had told him seemed like pure madness. He knew though that he couldn't let the rest of the clan fall into this either, as it could lead to many people dying who didn't have to, and that was why he had agreed to help Itachi. The village came first, above all else. He had taught that to Itachi, much like it had been taught to him by his teammate, a civilian-born kunoichi named Juku, lessons. Shisui once had the arrogance that many in the clan had. It was an arrogance passed down from being descended from the Sage of Six Paths, the father of all ninjutsu. An arrogance further increased by the knowledge that their clan was one of the 2 founding clans of Konoha. As a young genin, Shisui had always believed that he was superior to those around him. Then he had been assigned to his genin team, and the kunoichi on the team stopped him dead in his tracks. Juku had been an orphan, the daughter of a prostitute and a shinobi. Neither had wanted her, and so she was dumped at the orphanage when she was 4 years old. The brown-haired, blue-eyed girl had grown strong, and had used her abandonment by her parents to push her in her quest to be a strong kunoichi, and a strong person who would be nothing like her selfish parents. When she met Shisui, Juku had been friendly to him, only for him to brush aside her greeting like it was nothing. In the weeks that followed though, Shisui found himself being pushed by her. She was constantly challenging him, sparring with him, and most surprisingly, winning several battles against him. The two formed an intense rivalry, pushing each other to become stronger, and before Shisui knew it, his arrogance was long gone, destroyed by this kunoichi who had challenged his beliefs, challenged his strength, and showed him that a clan name and bloodline alone wasn't enough to be strong. That as a shinobi, their loyalty and pride should be in their village. It wasn't surprising then that in perhaps one of their most intense spars ever, Shisui got inside her guard and ended up pinning her to a tree. And before either knew what they were doing, they were kissing, right in front of their teammate and sensei, to their chagrin. They had been unable to talk to each other or even look at each other without blushing for 2 whole days, until he had finally asked her out on a date. Shisui looked down a bit sadly. Juku had been killed 1 year ago on a mission, mortally wounded by a rogue ninja from Kusa, who had then died at Shisui's hands. As Shisui held her in his arms, Juka confessed she had been too scared to confess how much she loved him. And Shisui confessed his own love to her, giving her one last kiss, before she passed on. In that moment, Shisui swore he would uphold her ideals, no matter what. And in that moment, his Sharingan morphed into the Mangekyu, something that was almost a myth in their clan. Shisui watched as Tekka entered the house of the clan head, and he used a brief shunshin to slip into the yard of the house, sliding around the side. He soon stopped under a window outside the study, as he heard movement within. Fugaku. Sama, you requested my presence? Tekka's voice could be heard, since the window was open. Shisui went still to listen. Yes. Sarutobi has recently requested a meeting with me and a few select members of the clan. However, the people he's requested are part of our group, Fugaku replied. I fear he is planning to make a move against us, as it's apparent he knows we are planning something. You weren't one of the people he requested to the meeting, so I have a mission for you. Leverage to use against Sarutobi, he stated. When the others and I head to this meeting, you are to go to this apartment. It is the home of the Kyuubi brat, who I know Sarutobi is close to. You are to hold him hostage, and if you don't hear from us within 3 hours of the meeting, kill him, he stated. Shisui's eyes widened at this, as he heard Tekka accept the mission. Afterwards, he heard the clink of 2 sake cups, and the pair drinking to the future of the Uchiha clan. Shisui stealthy moved away, knowing he had to warn Itachi or the Hokage about this. As he did though, he saw a figure quickly ducking into the shadows of a nearby house. Shisui slowly followed, worried it was a Uchiha who had seen him, or a spy from another village. He soon saw his target disappearing around another corner, and he quickly followed, watching as his target was heading in a southerly direction. It was a smart move, as there was a thick heavy woodland in that direction, so it was an easy place to disappear to when one exited the Uchiha district of the village. Shisui continued to stealthily pursue his target, as they soon exited the districted and took to the trees. As they did, Shisui analyzed his target. They were fairly proficient with stealth, having avoided everyone but him. And they were moving quickly and with great purpose. This was a highly skilled high chunin or junin level shinobi. After about 20 minutes, Shisui watched as his target dropped to the ground near a clearing. He stopped, and slowly began to stealthily approach the area, seeing several shadows in the clearing. He stopped when he was close enough to hear them. "I was rather surprised you contacted me, Danzo," spoke a person whose features he couldn't make out, due to the cloak and hood they were wearing. But now he could identify Danzo, flanked by two hooded and cloaked figures wearing blank masks. The shinobi he had trailed was a bit further back, waiting to report. "I contacted you because I know you can help me. I know now that Sarutobi and those running our village will destroy it." While he has shown backbone in the previous 2 years, Sarutobi is still unwilling to do what must be done to protect this village. And his teachings have infected the village and shinobi as a whole, Danzo stated. His ruling regarding this incident with the Uchiha has made that abundantly clear. "That is why I have come to you, as I know you hold little love for Sarutobi or this village." "I see. But surely you know I am not exactly someone you can so readily trust. I was once part of your little training program, so you know me, just as I know you," the figure said, in a strangely snake-like voice. "True enough, but I can trust you to act a certain way. And that is why I wish to make this offer. That you help me in saving Konoha from the cancer that is infecting it," Danzo said with a smile. "I will give you the chance of revenge, and you will help me clear out the sickness of the village." The figure seemed to chuckle. "You always did have a way with words. Very well then, Danzo. It'll be interesting working with you again. Though I must request a few things from you, when the time comes. Do we have an agreement?" At Danzo's nod, the figure simply faded back into the shadows, seemingly disappearing. Danzo stared at the space the person had been in, before jerking his head slightly. And in an instant, Shisui felt himself being slammed from behind, and into the ground, with two figures holding him down. Shisui Uchiha, known as Shunshin no Shisui. Junin of the Uchiha clan. Holder of the Koto Amatsukami Mangekyu Sharingan, Danzo said, turning to face the pinned down Shisui. "I have to say, it is an honor to meet you. You are quite the skilled shinobi." Shisui grunted softly, testing to see how much room he had to move. He was quickly pressed harder into the ground. "I would say thank you for the compliment, but coming from a traitor, that's not exactly high praise," he replied. Danzo stared down at him. "You may view it as treason, but I view it as being a patriot," he said quietly. "This village has become weak. We are diplomatic when we should fight. We concede when we should press. We are shinobi, killers, and mercenaries. We can't be weak, if we are to survive. What I do for the sake of the village," he stated. Shisui chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Is that really what you think? You think what you're doing is for the village? How the hell can you say you're doing what's best for the village when you're planning to betray and kill the people? That is what makes the village. We serve the people of the village, not the stone and wood, not the power of the village." "It is sad to see one so skilled could be so naïve," Danzo said, as he indicated for his two agents to hoist Shisui to his knees. "I would bring you into my organization, but it would cause too many problems. However, there is a way you can prove useful to me," he said as he produced a glass vial and a small knife. "Your eyes, and the Mangekyu Sharingan ability they possess. My agents have informed me about what they can do. The power to influence people will aid in my saving of the village." Shisui glared at Danzo. "You're insane, you know that? You are absolutely deranged. I will never let you have my eyes," he said, deactivating his Sharingan, which he had active while tracking the root agent. Danzo simply nodded to one of the root agents. "I'm afraid you have no choice," he said, as the agent placed a seal on Shisui's neck. And Shisui let out a grunt of pain as he felt his chakra surge, activating his Sharingan and morphing it into the Mangekyu form. It's really quite simple. That seal was designed to be used to counter prison seals that lock a person's chakra down, as well as medical instances where a person's chakra network needed to be jump-started. However, a colleague of mine found it most useful in forcing a person's bloodline to activate so he could take samples of their blood and study them. "In this case, it will allow me to harvest your Mangekyu Sharingan," Danzo told Shisui as he prepared the knife. Shisui growled angrily. "I'm afraid you've underestimated me," he said, as he felt the chakra surge throughout his body. With a roar he used it to strengthen his muscles, yanking free of one of the root agents and punching the other one so hard it broke his neck, sending him flying. The root agent he had broken free from tried to grab him again, but Shisui swung his head backwards, breaking his mask and sending him stumbling back with a broken nose. He turned as the other 3 agents charged, tantos drawn, and he grabbed a tanto from the root shinobi he had just head-butted, drawing it and slashing the man's throat before parrying a thrust from one of the charging agents. He spun around him, punching the next one before trading blows with the last agent. Grinning, he flipped over the agent, appearing behind the agent and stabbing him through the back, only to curse as he felt the blade stick into wood, the root agent disappearing in a substitution, leaving behind a log. Unable to retrieve the tanto, Shisui let it go, ducking under a slash aimed at his head. He quickly struck the root agent, knocking the air out of him, only to roll forward under a swing from the other root agent. The one he had thought he stabbed appeared from above, trying to stab down at him, but Shisui merely flickered away again, facing the 3 living root agents. Sadly, he forgot there was a 4th person there. Shisui felt Danzo's cane strike the back of his knees, knocking him down. Shisui tried to roll to get back to his feet, only to find a tanto heading for his head. He tried to jerk out of the way, but was only partially successful. There was the sound of metal cutting flesh, and a splash of blood. Shisui let out a scream, clutching the place where his left eye had been. Blood seeped from the wound, which now was a mess of destroyed ocular organ. Shisui panted in pain, backing away from the root agents, who advanced on him. "Fools, do not destroy his other eye," Danzo growled out, as the root agents prepared to attack. At that moment, Shisui felt his chakra start to settle down, as the seal's effect began to wear off. Feeling like his chakra was under control, Shisui grimly smiled at Danzo. "Sorry, but I don't think I can stick around," he panted out, before pouring as much chakra as he could into a shunshin and disappearing. Danzo merely glared at the spot Shisui had been in. With a snap of his fingers, the 3 agents appeared in front of him. "Clean up this mess, and then return to the base for punishment," he said, as the 3 root agents just nodded and moved to clean up the 2 bodies. Danzo merely turned and left, knowing he would have to let things die down before he could move again in the open. Elsewhere, Itachi was quietly waiting at a pre-arranged spot for Shisui, where they would exchange notes on what they had observed. Though he appeared calm, Itachi was nervous, as Shisui was late. He heard a rustle, and turned, only for his eyes to widen in shock and horror. Shisui stumbled out, clutching cloth ripped from his shirt over the wound of his left eye. "Hey there, Itachi," he said weakly, before dropping to his knees. Itachi rushed over to him. "Shisui, what happened?" he said, trying to help Shisui to his feet. Shisui shook his head. "There's no time. Itachi, you need to warn the Hokage. Fugaku is going to have Tekka kidnap Naruto and hold him for leverage. And Danzo is planning to eventually ally with a traitor of Konoha and wipe out the leadership of the village, replacing it with himself," he stated. Itachi nodded. "I will, Shisui, after I get you to a hospital," he said, trying to help Shisui up, only to be pushed away. "You can't, Itachi," Shisui said, as he looked up at him with his one good eye. "If you take me to the hospital, Danzo can send someone after me there. He tried to take my eyes, Itachi. He wants the power of my Mangekyo. And he almost had it," he stated. "Then what am I supposed to do, Shisui? I can't let you die," Itachi said, allowing emotions to break through his usually calm mask. Shisui smiled weakly at Itachi. "I'm afraid there's no other real choice, Itachi," he said, before slowly reaching up. Itachi's eyes widened in horror, and he tried to stop Shisui, but it was too late. The Uchiha, without making a single sound of pain, removed his remaining eye, gently holding it in his hand. "I can't be left alive, Itachi. Danzo will get to me, and the clan would never allow it. It would be a stain on their honor," he said, spitting out the word honor. Itachi trembled in horror and despair. "Why, Shisui? Why are you doing this?" "For the sake of the village," Shisui said. "I won't let my eyes be used against this village. Not by Danzo, and not by the clan. I entrust it to you," he whispered softly, holding out the eye. "Please do this for me, Itachi. I beg you." Itachi gently took the eye from Shisui's hand. "I will, Shisui. I'll protect this eye, and find a way to use it to help the village," he replied. Shisui shakily and sadly smiled. "I must ask one more thing of you, my brother. Help me to go join Juku?" Itachi trembled, eyes closed, as a few tears fell from them. "If that is your wish, my friend," he said softly. "I will help you join your beloved," he whispered. Shisui gave Itachi a serene smile, as he felt himself being helped to his feet and guided away into the darkness. That Sunday evening Kaseki was a bit nervous as she traveled with her father Yashira, as well as Fugaku and Anabi Uchiha, all of whom were top-ranked Junin of the Uchiha clan. With them as well was Tayaki Uchiha, one of the civilian members of the clan and Fugaku's brother, one. The entire clan had been on edge when the body of Shisui Uchiha had been found washed up against the bank of the river that flowed through the Uchiha district, feeding into the lake near the clan head's house. An autopsy showed that he had died of drowning, after apparently cutting his eyes and destroying them. An examination of the river led them to finding a bloody kunai with his blood and fingerprints on it further upstream. And at his home, there was a suicide note clearly written in his hand. In it, he stated how he could no longer live without his beloved Juku, and that he wished to join her in the afterlife. While the evidence pointed clearly to suicide, many wondered how this could be, considering that while Shisui seemed to still mourn the loss of his teammate, he seemed to be living his life happily otherwise. Some wondered if foul play was involved, but it seemed preposterous, as only someone with a Sharingan could have copied Shisui's handwriting. Still, an investigation began, while the corpse of Shisui was cremated and the ashes were then sprinkled over the water of the lake, to dissipate. This was Uchiha tradition, to ensure no one could steal secrets or DNA from the dead of the clan. Kaseki glanced at her father. "Dad, why am I here?" she asked. All she knew was that they were currently heading to a meeting with the Hokage, and her father had requested she come along. Yashira looked at her, smiling softly. "I suggested that you come along, sweetie, to act as a guard to make sure no one interferes with the meeting. You should be honored to guard the head of the clan." Kaseki smiled a bit weakly in return, not sure why they needed a guard. And if they did, why her? She shook her head, accepting it all, as they continued on their way. Back at the Uchiha district, two shadows slipped into the area, and then with nods to each other, separated to take care of their targets. At the meeting point, Itachi stood in full Anbu gear, wearing the traditional Anbu armor and his weasel mask. Sitting next to him was Sarutobi, who was quietly puffing on his pipe. And crouched in the rafters, not making a sound or movement, was Raphael, his lower face covered by a crimson face mask. Itachi glanced at Sarutobi, as they waited for the arrival of the Uchiha members. In the aftermath of Shisui's death, Itachi had reported everything to the Hokage, concerning Shisui's warning regarding Danzo and Fugaku. Sarutobi had assigned an Anbu to watch over Naruto, but sadly, there was nothing he could do about Danzo, without hard evidence to accuse him with. Trying to take Danzo out Black Ops style would more than likely fail, so for now, Danzo would have to be left alone. Though Sarutobi swore that he would find a way to end Danzo for good. At that moment, the door opened, and in entered Fugaku, followed by Tayaki, Anabi, and Yashira. Itachi's eyes widened as he saw a flash of Kaseki through the open door, before it closed. Fugaku bowed to Sarutobi once they all were in. "You summoned us, Hokage Sama?" he inquired. Sarutobi nodded quietly. "I did, Fugaku. I think it is about time we dispensed with the charade. I know that you're planning a coup against the leadership of Konoha. I brought you out here for one final attempt at diplomacy, and to prevent an incident from occurring. What you are doing, Fugaku, is madness. It will push the village into civil war, and could lead to the village's destruction at the hands of the other villages." Fugaku just sneered at him. "Do you think I honestly care about this village, Sarutobi? Our clan was one of the founding members. We are descended from the Rikudo Sennin himself. And yet our clan has continually been pushed aside, denied what should be our right. Our founder was denied the chance to be Hokage. Our clan was and still is kept separate from the rest of the village. It is time the Uchiha took their rightful birthright and control this village," he said, with nods of confirmation coming from those with him. "And do not think that having my traitorous son on your side will prevent us from succeeding," he said as he glared at Itachi, as he and the two shinobi drew kunai from their pockets, ready to fight. Sarutobi looked at Fugaku with disappointment. "Is that your final answer then?" he asked quietly, lowering his pipe to the small table in front of him and quietly tapping it out into the ashtray. "It is, Sarutobi. And before you think to try and kill me, just know that," Fugaku said, only to be interrupted. "Tekka Uchiha is on his way to capture Naruto Uzumaki. Should you not report back in time, Tekka is to slay Naruto. A rather foolish mistake, as it will lead to the destruction of this village and clan," Sarutobi said coldly, standing up. "I've already set an Anbu guard for Naruto." Tayaki stepped back, as the three Uchiha shinobi prepared to fight. "It doesn't matter, Sarutobi. Tonight ends your reign, and begins the reign of the Uchiha." Sarutobi shook his head. "Then I have my answer. You are hereby guilty of treason. Your sentence? Execution," he said simply, as a smoke bomb dropped from the ceiling and exploded amongst the Uchiha. Kaseki blinked, hearing muffled raised voices, but thought it was merely a heated discussion. But then she heard the dull explosion of a smoke bomb, its noise one that any well-trained shinobi would be familiar with it. In an instant she threw open the door, drawing her swords, only to find her vision blinded by smoke. She coughed, stumbling back, eyes watering slightly as something in the smoke made it hard for her to breathe and irritated her eyes. Her vision soon cleared, and she looked up, only for her eyes to widen in horror. Tayaki Uchiha was pinned to a wall, a sword through his chest keeping him upright, as a crimson-robed figure held a Bana Uchiha by the throat, with a blade protruding through his neck. Fugaku was staring blankly at the kunai that Hiruzen Sarutobi had buried through his throat, before his legs buckled and he began to fall. But worse, far worse, was the sight of her father's headless corpse slumping to the ground, his head having rolled a few feet away. And the man standing over her dead father was none other than Itachi, his sword dripping with her father's blood. Kaseki stood there, her weapons clattering to the ground as they fell from her nerveless hands, before she sunk to her knees. She just kept staring at where her father had stood, as the crimson-robed figure turned to the Hokage, saying, "I'm going to go check on Naruto," before disappearing. Sarutobi sighed as he looked at Kaseki's shocked form. "Itachi, please take care of her," he said, as he retrieved his pipe and quietly left. Itachi just numbly nodded, as he sheathed his still bloody sword, and slowly removed his mask, looking down at Kaseki. She slowly looked up, her eyes lifeless, as tears fell from them. "Why?" she whispered. Itachi felt his heart shatter, seeing her like this. "I'm sorry," he whispered, as his Sharingan began to morph into the Mangekyo Sharingan, the three tomos becoming a pinwheel. Tsukuyomi. The apartment of Naruto trembled in fear as he watched Tekka Uchiha approach him. He didn't know what was going on. One minute he was getting ready for bed, and then the next he heard the sound of glass shattering outside his bedroom. He had rushed to the door, only for his eyes to widen in fear as he saw an unknown man stabbing one of those masked ninjas he had sometimes seen around the Hokage. The masked man slumped to the ground, blood pooling around his body as he weakly tried to cover the hole in his throat, before falling still. Tekka grinned as he approached Naruto. Well, looks like it's just you and me now, brat," Tekka said maliciously. He suddenly appeared in front of Naruto, kicking him in the chest and knocking him back into the bedroom. Naruto slammed into the wall, the air knocked out of him, before he fell to the floor, crying and panting for air as he held his chest and stomach. Tekka smirked as he approached. "What's the matter, fox brat? Don't like being hurt?" he asked, as he grabbed Naruto by his hair and threw him against another wall, making Naruto cry out again. "Well, it doesn't matter now. 'Cause after tonight, you'll either be dead, or you'll be the Uchiha clan's lil pet," he said. "And personally, I'm hoping for the former." Naruto sobbed, looking up at the man who grinned, raising his leg to kick Naruto, only for him to yell in pain as little Tomo rushed out from under the bed and clamped his teeth into Tekka's ankle, his claws digging into the man's leg as he tried to do as much damage as he could. Naruto weakly scrambled back into the living room, when he heard Tomo yelp in pain and the thud of something hitting a wall. He managed to reach the dead Anbu when he heard footsteps behind him. Glancing over his shoulder, he saw a very pissed-off Tekka limping towards him. "Forget what Fugaku said. I'm going to kill you and that damn rat," he said, raising his kunai. Naruto scrambled madly, managing to grab the hilt of the dead Anbu's tanto, as Tekka lunged. Naruto pulled the sword out and stabbed upward on blind instinct. Raphael rushed up the stairs to Naruto's apartment, only for his eyes to widen in horror as he saw the broken window. He immediately rushed inside, only to stop at what he saw. The Anbu Sarutobi had assigned to guard Naruto lay dead on the floor, stabbed through the throat. Next to him lay Tekka on his side, his face forever locked in surprise as he held the tanto in his chest that had ended his life. Raphael quickly scanned the room for any sign of Naruto. "Naruto, where are you?" Raphael shouted, only to hear sobbing coming from the bedroom. He rushed in, where he found Naruto. The boy was covered in blood, and was huddled in a corner, sobbing and crying. Tomo was resting in his lap, whimpering softly and trying to comfort him, even though one of his legs was bent at a funny angle. Raphael immediately rushed over and knelt down, touching Naruto's shoulder. "Naruto, speak to me. Are things going well for you?" Naruto just looked up, trembling as he stared blankly at Raphael. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. I really am a monster, aren't I?" he choked out. Raphael pulled him into a hug, shaking his head. "No, Naruto. You're not a monster. "You never could be," he whispered, as he held the boy close, letting him sob into his chest, as he held him. It would be this scene that a full squad of Enbu would come across when they arrived. Outside the village, Itachi quietly stared at his former home. He now bore a slash through his headband, the universal symbol of a missing nin. His face was lined with tear trails, though his eyes were dry. He slowly turned and began to run. His life in Konoha was over, and his life with Akatsuki was about to begin. Seated in a hospital bed, Naruto silently gazed at his hands. 3 days had passed since the attack and attempted murder by the man, now known to him as the Uchiha. After crying into Raphael's chest for more than an hour, he eventually passed out from exhaustion when Raphael discovered him. He woke up to find himself in a hospital, his right arm from being slashed by Tekka's kunai, and his chest and stomach covered in bandages. It had taken him a while to come to terms with what had happened to him and his current situation, and the sensation of horror returned when he did remember. He was still able to see Tekka's face, that familiar snarl of hatred that gave way to confusion and pain. The sensation of the blade entering the man's chest, the impact of his weight on him, the blood that fell on his face and chest, and the image of Tekka trying to take the tanto out of his hand. Remembering it all, Naruto sobbed uncontrollably once more, breaking down into tears. A nurse saw him crying and came in to see how he was doing before leaving. Within 5 minutes, Anko and Yugito trailed in behind Raphael, who embraced Naruto with his arms. Retrospective Raphael was holding onto Naruto while he sobbed against him, holding onto his shirt. He was crying all the while when he felt Anko and Yugito hugging him too. Raphael simply held him while giving Naruto a gentle head rub. He sighed and said, "It's okay. Just let it out." He was aware that this was how he had once felt. He was 13 when he experienced a terrible nightmare, not long after joining the assassins in Rome. He'd seen his mother, his uncle, his aunt, repeatedly slaughtered in front of him. He felt 2 arms enveloping and comforting him as he sobbed while sitting in bed. There, he had noticed Ezio, his new mentor, when he looked up. To let Raphael cry against him and get everything out of his system, Ezio simply gave him an understanding nod. And now Raphael tried to support and comfort Naruto in the same way. Naruto eventually stopped crying long enough to talk, though it took nearly 30 minutes. Thank you, Raphael. Sensei, he muttered. Quietly, Raphael grinned. Calm down, Naruto, it's okay. I apologize for what happened to you. After glancing at Anko and Yugito, Naruto turned back to face Raphael. Am I a monster? He questioned softly. He looked at Anko the moment she put her hand on his shoulder. No, you're not a monster, she exclaimed, making sure he would take her seriously by staring him in the eyes. Naruto shook. He cried, looking down, but I killed him. He called me a demon, just like I've heard people say under their breath, and I killed him. I'm a monster. Raphael's voice caused him to look up. I have murdered 117 individuals, Raphael declared, glancing at Naruto. I've killed bandits, soldiers, guards, merchants, and nobles. Do you think I'm a monster? Naruto replied. Just as Naruto was about to speak, Anko interrupted. She asked him, gently taking his hand, I've killed 39 people, Naruto. Guess that makes me a monster, huh? And I've already killed 5 people, Yugito continued. Am I a monster? Before Raphael spoke once more, Naruto gave each of them a quick glance. You're not a monster for killing someone, Naruto. You're a monster if you enjoy killing someone, if you take pleasure in killing a person, or hurting them, or torturing them. The fact that you are so upset over this proves that you are not a monster, but you are human. Naruto shook a little. He said in a whisper, but I feel so horrible. And you ought to, Anko remarked. That's how all of us felt on our first kills. The first time I killed someone, I was a genin, fighting against a bandit. And I went into shock after I killed him. I fell to my hands and knees and threw up, before falling to the side and just laying there in shock. I felt so guilty and horrible for days afterwards. My sensei he told me it was normal, and it would pass in time. But it didn't, Naruto. And that's what helps us remember that we are human. Raphael said, she's right. Those feelings of guilt and disgust, they show you are not a monster, but a person. Naruto as an assassin, and a shinobi, you'll be forced to kill more people in the future. It will never truly get easier, but in time, you'll learn to cope. But so long as you don't let go of your emotions, so long as you still feel sadness and guilt over taking another person's life, then you'll know you're still human, he stated. After giving them all a quick glance, Naruto merely nodded feebly. In a quiet voice, he said, I think I understand. The flashback concludes in an attempt to lift his spirits. They had paid him several visits since then. Anko brought in an eager Tomo wearing a cast over his broken leg, giving him a very happy surprise a day after they had comforted him. The juvenile fox had joyfully yipped and snuggled up to him upon Anko's placement of him on his lap. Tomo was taken by Anko to Hana Inuzuka, a veterinarian, who consented to treat Tomo. Fortunately, the leg was not severely fractured and, with enough time and rest, would heal fully. Now, as Tomo slept off the medication he had been given to help fight off any illnesses he might contract while recovering, Naruto gave him a gentle pat on the back. He watched the small fox sleep, grinning quietly, but then he looked up as the door opened. When he noticed the guest, he gave a feeble smile. He said, "Hey Hinata." Hinata came in and stood by his side right away. Naruto-kun, I'm so sorry I wasn't here earlier, she responded. My father told the clan to stay in the compound after what happened with the Uchiha clan. He finally let me out today, she said, placing her hand on his arm. Are you okay? With an attempt to give her a supportive smile, Naruto nodded. He put on a brave face for her and said, Oh, I'm fine. I'll be out of here before you know it. Hinata's eyes met his. With concern in her voice, she said, Naruto-kun, don't exaggerate. Why you need to rest? I know you're pretty badly hurt. I overheard my dad talking about it with some of the others in my clan. That Uchiha he tried to kill you. Naruto averted his gaze a little. I know, but don't worry about it, see? So don't worry about it, he replied with a smaller, more sincere smile. Besides, having you visit makes me feel a whole lot better. Hinata simply grinned shyly while flushing quite a bit. She said, it's not a problem. Her question was, do you need anything? Nah, I'm good. Just want to hang out, he responded. Though if you can sneak in some ramen, that'd be great. The heiress of Hyuga giggled and covered her mouth. I'll see what I can manage, she uttered. He blushed and looked down at Hinata-chan, saying, thanks Hinata-chan, you're the best. So did you get any training done while you were stuck in your house? Hinata turned her head away and bit her lip. My father he's set me up to spar a member of my clan. One of the grandchildren of the elders, she responded. He wants to see if I've improved. Well, you just show him how much you've improved. You'll wipe the floor with the guy you're sparring against, Naruto laughed. And then your dad will see how awesome you are, won't he? Hinata smiled a little. Why, you really think so? Without a doubt, Naruto exclaimed, of course, with all the training you've gotten from Anko. Sensei, Yugito. Sensei, and even the bit from Raphael. Sensei, you'll be unbeatable. All Hinata did was nod and smile. Thank you Naruto. I hope I don't let any of you down. Naruto simply smiled broadly, relieved to have the diversion. And then when you've won the spar, we can celebrate, believe it. The Hyuga heiress gave Naruto a gentle giggle and a nod while grinning. Feeling better, Naruto smiled back. As Hinata caressed Tomo, who had woken up, he yipped joyfully and wagged his tail. Sarutobi sighed as he moved through the locked prisoner wing's hallways elsewhere in the hospital. When a prisoner was being held in this area of the hospital, Anbu teams would constantly patrol and guard it. Only the most skilled and reliable medical personnel in the village were allowed access. As he went through an Anbu checkpoint, Sarutobi thought about what had happened after the Uchiha coup attempt was destroyed. He had been occupied extinguishing fires throughout the village following the demise of Fugaku Uchiha and the other conspirators. He had to make an effort to maintain village security and aid in the Uchiha clan's stabilization. Other villages might be persuaded to send in spies and saboteurs after such an incident to take advantage of any weakened defenses or preoccupied leaders. It had occurred both following the Hyuga incident and after Konoha's forces were at their weakest, following the Kyuubi attack. Now that a clan chief and numerous prominent shinobi and civilians have died, the other villages may find themselves enticed to take over. Standing outside a room with two Anbu on either side, Sarutobi thought about how things had turned out. Anko and Yugito had both managed to eliminate their targets. While Yugito's target tragically broke his neck after slipping in his bathroom following a shower, Anko's target reportedly passed away from a heart attack while he was sleeping. Even though it was totally unanticipated, the Teka Uchiha incident had also been handled. Nobody, aside from Shikaku Nara, had any genuine suspicions, and Shikaku had said nothing about it. Itachi had nearly entirely hidden his tracks. His dissatisfaction with the village and clan was expressed in a note discovered in his bedroom by Anbu investigation teams. How he had pretended to be Sarutobi's letter in order to entice Fugaku and the most powerful shinobi in the Uchiha clan to a meeting where he would test his power before departing the village, how he felt they were holding him back, and how he wanted to push his boundaries and discover true power. In the letter, he also revealed how, using a cover, he had enticed his uncle and future father.in.law. Further evidence of Itachi's cover was provided by the fact that his fiancé copyright, Kaseki Uchiha, was attacked by Itachi in addition to being present when Itachi slaughtered the clan leadership. Sadly, the one possible weakness in Itachi's cover story was also Kaseki. Sarutobi went to the hospital room and opened the door, turning to face the person inside. With a respirator and other devices attached to keep her alive, Kaseki Uchiha lay in the hospital bed, unconscious. Her vitals were weak, so she was hooked up to life support when she was brought in by an Anbu member who had discovered the dead Uchiha. Itachi told Sarutobi that he couldn't kill Kaseki before leaving the village. Despite using the Tsukuyomi on her, he was unable to kill her and instead left her in a comatose state. For no other reason than her innocence, he pleaded with Sarutobi to spare her. Gazing down at Kaseki, Sarutobi now had a decision to make. She posed a threat. On the one hand, she had seen the conspirators and the head of the Uchiha clan killed. She might not have known everything that she saw, but she might have known enough to endanger the village. And he could not permit that in his capacity as Hokage. But he couldn't help but think of Itachi as well. Observing Itachi's potential to become a Hokage, he had been keeping tabs on the young Uchiha. The young man had always been devoted to the village, but he was also infatuated with the girl who was lying in front of Sarutobi. Itachi had already given up almost everything for the village, as far as Sarutobi knew. In order to save and protect them all, he had given up being with his family, clan, village, and the woman he loved. In his heart, Sarutobi could not cause Konoha any more pain after he had already endured so much already because he had made such a great sacrifice for him. With a sigh, Sarutobi turned and slowly walked out of the room again. He glanced at the two Anbu and gave a nod. Keep her alive. The minute she is awake, I want to know, understood? After receiving a nod from the two operatives, Sarutobi departed with an even greater resolve to restore his former strength and resolve, ensuring that Itachi and Kaseki Uchiha's suffering wasn't experienced by anyone else. Makoto was standing at the Uchiha compound in front of a shattered heap of ash and burning wood. It had been a massive wooden structure only an hour or so before, and each of the recently deceased Uchiha were arranged upon it, robed in traditional kimonos. 4 Uchiha shinobi used the Kaden, Gukakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique, to set the pyre on fire and demolish the bodies of the fallen Uchiha while the entire clan watched. To stop enemies from finding out the details of the Uchiha clan's lineage, or worse, from taking their eyes, these were the customary funeral rites of the clan. Silently, Makoto turned her gaze away and saw the clan members gathered. The last few weeks have been difficult for the clan. Shisui was killed by Itachi Uchiha, the clan prodigy, who also killed their clan leader and a number of their finest shinobi. Right now, the clan was in a precarious situation, and Makoto knew she had to be strong even though all she wanted to do was shut herself away and cry. Now that she had assumed the role of clan head, these people relied on her. We will mourn the loss of clansmen, but we must honor them as well, she said in a quiet voice that somehow managed to speak for all of them. My fellow Uchiha, we have suffered a great tragedy. Our clan has suffered the deaths of our kin before, but never has it been at the hands of one of our own. Makoto turned to face her remaining son, who was standing with his head bowed and staring at his feet. After observing him for a short while, Makoto raised her gaze. Those who died today worked hard to make our clan strong, and so we do not shame their memory, we must do the same. Mourn their loss, but honor them by working hard, to make our clan and our village great, she said as her voice strengthened. We are Uchiha. Our clan founded this village with the Senju. Our ancestors fought, bled, and died for our clan and village, and we will honor their memory in sacrifice by continuing to protect our clan, our comrades, and our village. The clan members straightened their posture after she spoke, and some even nodded. With a quiet movement, Makoto approached her son and raised his face to face her. We must be strong, Sasuke. Things will be tough, but we'll get through it, she said quietly. Sasuke gave her a quick glance before giving a quiet nod, his back and shoulders tensing up in determination. As his mother had advised, he needed to be strong. He made a silent vow while keeping his fist clenched. He would grow stronger until he could defend his clan. He also planned to locate his brother and bring him in to face justice for the harm he caused to the clan. Hyuga Compound, Day 2 for Hinata Hyuga, The day of the spar had come much too soon. She was waiting for her opponent while kneeling against the wall in the Hyuga Estate's outdoor training courtyard. Her outfit included a black shin-length skirt and a short-sleeved shirt. Her feet were covered in a blue zori. She could sense the gazes of the assembled main family members and some of the branch members from inside the home. She felt as though her entire body, like a spring ready to be released, was coiled tightly as she knelt there. She had a lot on her mind, which made her feel stressed. There were other things on her mind in addition to this spar. Her primary concern was whether Naruto was indeed alright and how much she worried about him. Hinata had trained with him before, and although he had seemed sincere in his happiness to see her, she knew he would frequently attempt to conceal his own suffering from others. She wished she could simply retreat to her room and attempt to address all of her other concerns. Hiyoshi's wife stood slightly behind him as he watched his oldest daughter with a detached expression from nearby. Standing at his right hand, Hanabi, his younger daughter, demonstrated her preferred position with her father. One of the clan's elders emerged from behind a closed door at the opposite end of the courtyard. There was a stoic-looking Hyuga boy inside of him, who was roughly a year older than Hinata. But when they settled on Hinata, his eyes were filled with disdain. He took his place, looked away, knelt, facing the wall, and was dressed similarly to her. When Hiyoshi realized everyone needed to be there, he spoke. Hinata Hyuga, Musha, warrior, Hyuga. Rise and face each other, he instructed. With their backs to one another, the two kids stood up. Hinata, whose nerves were beginning to get the better of her, trembled a little as Musha could hardly contain her sneer. Hiyoshi carried on speaking indifferently. This day, you two will face each other, to test your abilities and show your might to the clan. Honor us this day, and we shall honor you, said the elder. Make ready to fight. While Hinata attempted to do the same, Musha maintained his with a firm sense of purpose and confidence. Both took up the customary Juken starting stance. Hiyoshi gave them a quick glance before raising a hand. Begin. Without any delay, Musha charged ahead of Hinata, hoping to impair her fighting skills from the outset by jabbing at her right shoulder before she could gather her composure. Gasping, Hinata retreated instinctively, blocking his blow with her foot. With a tiny sigh of frustration, Musha launched several jabs and palm strikes at her as he intensified his attack. As her eyes grew wide, Hinata found herself reacting almost instinctively, blocking and deflecting his strikes. That's what she was doing. It was true that she was resisting him. Her muscle memory was now assisting her in reflexively deflecting Musha's attacks, which were a little slower than what Yugito and Enko had been training Hinata at. She silently thanked Enko, Yugito, and Raphael for those training sessions where they had her constantly training and blocking and deflecting their attacks. As another round of attacks fell short, Musha scowled at Hinata. Contrary to what his grandfather had promised, this victory would not be simple. He stumbled in one blow, feeling a little uneasy, and Hinata took advantage of that. He retreated as he ducked under her jab, but she knocked his stuttering blow away. The main family members of the Hyuga clan were watching Hinata launch an offensive from the sidelines, muttering to themselves in shock. Watching his oldest daughter launch her own attack had caused Hiyoshi's eyes to narrow slightly in shock. Musha struck, but Hinata parried the blow and nailed his extended arm with a sharp jab. She struck him again as he pulled his arm back, but he deflected it, stepping into her and stabbed her in the lower abdomen. Because she was too late to block the blow, Musha smirked as she staggered back and clutched her stomach in agony. He advanced to strike once more, but Hinata, responding instinctively once more from her training with Naruto and his sensei, whirled around to dodge his blow and land a short jab to his left shoulder as she did so. Musha staggered slightly before turning to glare at Hinata. What was that? That wasn't supposed to be a part of the Juken, he yelled. Many of the onlookers seemed to agree with him. The Juken, in their eyes, was an unadulterated fighting technique that ought not to be modified. Hinata Hyuga had just insulted them, and it was wrong to do so. Hinata gasped a little as she prepared to strike. She said, are we not shinobi? Why should I limit myself if I'm going to be fighting for this village? Musha just gave a growl and launched another assault on her. I knew it, my grandfather was right. You're a useless weakling, who can never live up to our clan's standards. He yelled as he lunged toward her, quickly throwing punches and palm strikes. Recalling Yugito's words, Hinata started to back away, dodging each one and maintaining her distance from him. It is best to use deflection when you are some distance away from your opponent. You won't have the leverage or reaction time to block their blow if they are too close. Remain far away from them and deflect their blows to the side until you can take their balance, penetrate their defenses, and nail them. With her right arm, Hinata ducked a powerful palm strike that was aimed at her chest, spotting her opportunity once more. Musha was staggering forward a little bit from over, lunging, as he had applied a little too much force to the strike. Entering his guard, Hinata struck him twice, once in the left arm and once in the right leg. Unfortunately, he struck her left arm as well when she attempted to back away. Wincing, she tested her arm and staggered back. She could still move it and channel chakra through it, but she felt as though she no longer had control over her arm's chakra. Musha just gave her a glare while attempting to maintain his balance due to some wobbling in his right leg. Is that what those commoners taught you? You're pathetic. Retreating when you should stand and fight. He yelled, causing Hinata's eyes to widen. Oh yes, I know. My grandfather told me all about it. How you're so pathetic that you have to get training from outside the clan because everyone inside the clan knows you're a waste, a disgrace to our noble bloodline and heritage. His words made Hinata shudder a little, and she looked around to see that some people were quietly nodding in agreement. She first glanced at her sister, who was observing her with indifference, and then she looked at her father, where all she could see were his icy eyes. Were they correct? Were they really seeing her as that pitiful? Her stomach was already hurting, so she turned to face Musha in time to see him land a powerful palm strike on it. The blow sent her flying back into the earth, screaming with pain. She lay there, holding on to her stomach and struggling to breathe, while Musha staggered over to her. He rolled over to face her, grinning cruelly, and said, "That's where you belong. On the ground, kneeling and groveling before your betters. You, who make a mockery of our clan by associating with those below our clan's prestige and glory. It's just too bad that the Uchiha didn't kill that boy you're so fond of. He's the only thing more disgraceful in this village than you are." Hearing him say those things, Hinata froze. She started trembling again as he stood over her. When Hinata charged up and gave him a hard palm strike to the stomach, Musha sneered, thinking it was fear. However, as he was about to finish the spar, he let out a painful yell. Before he could even get up, Hinata turned around and gave him a powerful kick to the face, sending him flying back with blood gushing from his now broken nose. Beyond sensing such fire pulsing through her, Hinata was unaware of what had transpired. His remarks had set her nerves on edge, and now all she could think about was hurting him. She was also anxious, worried about Naruto, and stressed out from dealing with the clan. He stumbled to his feet and she charged at him, slamming another palm strike into his chest. She yelled, "You do not," as she struck his right shoulder once more, incapacitating that arm. She poked a chakra point in his chest and said, "Ever." It made him cough up blood. She kicked his right leg, breaking his shin bone and making him scream in agony. "Insult, my friend." She forgot that she no longer had chakra control over her right arm and struck him one last time with her left. Because of this, the blow she delivered was nearly 3 times stronger than a typical Juken strike. As a result, Musha's arm's 4 chakra points were destroyed by her blow, and the bone was almost completely disintegrated. He just couldn't take any more of the pain, and he passed out, collapsing forward. First, 1. Before the feelings of rage and anger left Hinata, she stood there panting heavily. As it happened, she fell to one knee and began to throw up on the ground as shock overcame her. It wasn't until she eventually stopped throwing up that she realized the shadow was hanging over her. She slowly raised her head to see her father's eyes, which were the coldest she had ever seen. When she began to struggle to her feet, his voice stopped her. He angrily said, "You do not rise," which made her fall to her knees. Glancing to his right, Hiyashi saw that 2 healers from the branch family were checking on Musha. One of them glanced at Hiyashi and shook his head, interrupting their quiet conversation to check on Musha's wounds. With a furious tensing up of his body, Hiyashi faced Hinata. "You will go to the infirmary, and you will stay there. You will speak to no one. Understood?" he yelled. Trembling with fear, Hinata nodded her understanding. The clan's elders followed Hiyashi as he turned and stormed off. Hinata's mother was trembling softly as the other spectators started to scatter. She moved to approach Hinata's kneeling form, but Hiyashi told her to follow him instead. Trembling, she turned to follow Hiyashi as she struggled to obey her husband and take care of her daughter. And so Hinata was left by herself, shaking with fear and revulsion in the middle of the sparring courtyard. She stood up slowly and limped inside the clan's infirmary, tears streaming from her eyes. She felt less of a winner as she staggered inside, even though she had won the spar. The following day, Hokage's desk Raphael had asked for an audience with the elderly leader and was waiting patiently outside the Hokage's office. A scroll with some intriguing information he felt the Hokage should see was in his hands. This information concerned not only the deceased Kuroya Kyudo but also a different possible threat and target that they had been researching for some time. After a while, a tiny buzzing sound came from the secretary's desk, and she looked up at him and nodded. Go ahead and enter, she gestured to the door. Raphael nodded slightly, got to his feet, and hurried into the Hokage's office. Sarutobi gave him a quick look. Ah, Raphael-san, welcome. What can I do for you? In front of him, Raphael placed the scroll down. Hokage. Sama, while I was reviewing some of the documents we obtained from Kuroya Kyudo, I noticed something, he stated, unfolding the scroll to reveal the first section. Apart from Gado shipping, I flagged several deals he made that consisted of large orders of weaponry, he stated, citing a number of transactions with the company or its owner. Most of it was usually one-time deals, or were infrequent repeat buyers. Now from what we've gathered on Gado over the past couple of years, we know he's in deep in illegal stuff. But the amounts of weapons he bought from Kuroi are way too much for him to simply be arming his thugs with. There's enough weaponry and equipment here to supply an army for some months. So, my thought is that Gado is the middleman in someone else's deal here. Sarutobi examined the notes in front of him while Raphael continued to unfold the scroll. If Gado is the middleman, then who is the one on the other end of these deals? Raphael gave a smile. I looked at the shipping records that your Anbu team obtained 6 months ago. That's what I wanted to know too, he said, pointing to the next piece of evidence, which included a list of transport ships and their destinations. Now, take a look at the ones I've highlighted, he stated. Each of these ships was dispatched in between 1 to 2 weeks of the deals Gado shipping made with Kuroi, and each of them has the same general destination. They all were headed to Mizu no Kuni, Land of Water. They each stop at a different port, but almost all of them are landing on the main island where Kirigakure no Sato is located. The older Hokage perused the data. Gado is shipping arms to someone in Kiri, he explained. He's profiteering off the civil war raging in Kiri currently. Raphael gave a nod. Exactly. What's more though, is he, or whoever he's shipping these weapons to, are not supplying one side. They're supplying both sides, he stated. I've been studying the scattered reports coming in from Mizu no Kuni, and listening to the rumors. The Civil War began almost 2 years ago, and since then, I've managed to piece together a rough idea of some of the stuff that's happened. The war seems to be sawing back and forth. At one time the rumors say the rebels are on the offensive, the next say Kiri has wiped out one of the rebels' bases. I don't have any definitive, concrete proof, but take a look at this. 3 distinct timelines, arranged one above the other, were contained in the final section of the scroll, which Raphael pointed to. In the first, the dates that Kuroi sold Gado shipping weapons were mentioned. The second one showed the ships that were dispatched to Kiri soon after the sales of weapons. Also included in the last was a rough chronology of reports and rumors regarding the Kiri Civil War. After taking in everything, Sarutobi quickly deduced what Raphael was trying to say. One side goes on the offensive in the war every time one of the weapon shipments arrives, he remarked, narrowing his eyes. And by the next shipment, it seems the other side is now on the offensive. Gado and whoever he's sending his weapons to are prolonging the war. They're keeping either side from gaining an advantage over the other by ensuring both sides are kept well supplied, Raphael continued. Sarutobi let out a sigh and put the scroll down. The problem is, we cannot go after Gado. While I've seen more than enough evidence to know he's bad news and needs to be brought down, I cannot authorize a strike against him until he actually makes a move against Konoha. And while I'm sure you'd love to go after him, he's maintained enough of a public image that if he turned up dead or missing, people will ask too many questions. Not to mention that we still have no idea where he maintains his criminal headquarters. Maybe we can't go after Gado, but I think that at least we can stop his interference with the events in Kiri, Raphael stated. If I can enter Mizu no Kuni and find who is selling the weapons to both sides of the conflict, I can put a stop to that, and at least shorten the length of the civil war there, said Raphael. The elderly Hokage slowly rose to his feet, then pivoted to face the window. I cannot officially sanction any action you take. It would draw us into an affair that doesn't concern us, and Konoha cannot suffer a blow to its reputation or mission income. Not in our current state, he replied. Rolling up the scroll, Raphael nodded. I understand, Hokage. If I do this, I'm doing it on my own. But I am going to do this. People are suffering and dying in a war that is being prolonged by an outside source for profit. This is something that the Brotherhood has sworn to prevent. I'll give you notice before I leave, he said, before turning to leave. Sarutobi simply sighed and continued gazing out the window. He merely said, good luck, as he observed the villagers beneath him. While Tomo curled up around his shoulders, Naruto was grinning broadly as he left the hospital. Naruto concluded he could no longer conceal the fox because Tomo had been exposed by this entire incident. The fox was currently panting contentedly and occasionally licking or sniffing Naruto's ear. Anko, who had arrived to retrieve Naruto, smiled. Bet you're glad to be out of there, huh? Naruto gave a nod of agreement. He said, you bet, nay. Chan. Always stuck in that bed, with nothing to do but think or read. The food was awful, he muttered, releasing his gag reflex. Anko tossed his hair in a laughing motion. Tell me about it. I hate being in there too, she responded. So, what do you want to do to celebrate getting out of the hospital? We can round up Yugito and Raphael and go party. My treat, she said while grinning. At that, Naruto grinned. Sounds great, but I'd like to get home first and then go find Hinata. I want to hear how awesome she did in her spar, he said with a wide grin. Hey, that sounds intriguing. I'd like to know how she performed too. I need to know how amazing my other student is, Anko remarked, projecting a fake snobbery. After all, I have this reputation of being an epically badass kunoichi, she remarked in an ironically haughty manner. The youthful blonde merely chuckled, nudging her side. He remarked, don't get a big head Anko nay. Chan, which made her smile and give him a one-arm embrace. Naruto found himself thinking inwardly as they continued to walk. He was still emotionally and mentally unstable from killing Teko Uchiha and coming dangerously close to death. However, he felt better after discussing it with Anko, Raphael, and Yugito. Hinata's assistance in distracting him from the situation was another benefit of spending time with her. The shock, shame, fear, and disgust were still very much present in him. He would not allow them to rule his life, though. As his three mentors and fellow assassins pointed out, it was crucial to cling to those emotions because they served as a helpful reminder that he was only human. He couldn't, however, allow those feelings to rule his life either. Not to mention that he had Sensei and his two amazing Chans to talk to and support him. Naruto was ascending the stairs to his apartment with Anko trailing him when he halted and noticed a huddled figure sitting in front of it with two small packs seated close to them and their faces buried in their knees. Upon witnessing it, Anko scowled and slid a hand over to pick up a kunai. But as he advanced and identified the figure, Naruto allayed her worries. He called out to her, Hinata. After passing close to Hinata, Naruto extended his arm to touch her shoulder but stopped when she lifted her lowered head to face him. Hinata, the former heiress of the Hyuga clan, showed him the bandages covering her forehead, and his own bewildered cerulean eyes met hers, red and puffy from crying. Sitting at Naruto's table, Hinata stared down at her with numbness. Ever since Naruto had seated her, she had not moved from that spot. She had cried as she rushed to embrace Naruto upon seeing him. Reluctantly, Naruto gave her a hug in return and allowed her to cry on top of him. After she had finally calmed down a little, Anko had led them inside, and Naruto had seated her at the table, where she had gazed at it indifferently. Anko now placed a green teacup in front of her, and Naruto took a seat in front of her. Hinata felt the purple-haired special Junin's shoulder. She whispered, Hinata, do you want to tell us what happened? Hinata trembled a little, and Anko waved briskly. You don't have to. If it's too painful, then you don't have to talk about it, she replied quickly. Hinata muttered, No. I'm sorry, I should tell someone. She said to Naruto, who nodded, I told you about the sparring match yesterday. That's how it started. Anko gave a blink. So waita they did this cause you lost a sparring match? She inquired. Hinata gave a headshake. She responded, no, I won. Let me explain. She started talking about what had happened between the end of her match yesterday and today as Naruto and Anko listened. Retrospection in the center of the Hyuga compound's main conference room. Hinata was on her knees. Clan meetings took place here, and the clan chief hosted dignitaries and notable guests who were too big for his main study or office. Restricted to the infirmary, Hinata received prompt medical attention from a healer who attended to her wounds before hurriedly assisting the other healers who were tending to Musha in a separate area of the facility. After nearly 5 hours in the infirmary, Hinata was taken to her room by 2 members of the branch family. One of them turned to face her when they got there. Hinata, Sama, you are to clean yourself up and change your clothing. After which, we are to escort you to the main conference room. With a numb nod, Hinata went to her room. As she quickly changed into a fresh white kimono and took a quick bath in her own bathroom, the 8-year-old wondered apprehensively what was going on. Then she was led to the conference room, where she was now on her knees. Most of the adult Hyuga clan members were seated along the sides of the room. The branch family members were along one side and the main family members were along the other. There was an elevated dais at the front of the space, and 5 pillow seats were arranged along its top. During meetings, the elders and the head of the Hyuga clan would gather here. Hinata kept her gaze fixed on the ground, but neither the elders nor the clan head were visible at that moment. She sensed that all eyes were on her. All she wanted to do was vanish into the ground. She looked up and to her left, toward the front of the room, where her mother was seated. The woman Hitomi Hyuga was reserved. She had been told her entire life that her sole responsibility was to be a submissive, quiet wife. She was expected to be the ideal wife, taking care of the kids, discreetly serving refreshments, and generally meeting her husband's needs. That was the Hyuga clan's way. Now, though, as Hitomi Hyuga observed her terrified daughter sitting by herself in the center of the room, she began to doubt those lessons. Ever since Hiyashi started training Hinata, she had been questioning them. Hitomi had witnessed her daughter's difficulties picking up the Juken, had witnessed Hiyashi's annoyance and rage at Hinata's failure to live up to his and the clan's standards. Although she had discreetly assisted Hinata, her personal Juken training had been limited to self-defense, making her less skilled than Hiyashi or the majority of the other instructors. Therefore, when no one else was around, all she could do was console her daughter. Hitomi felt a strong maternal instinct at this point, urging her to go console Hinata. The only thing holding her back was her awareness that it would be detrimental for them both to do so in public, in front of the clan. At this point, all she could do was hope that she and Hinata would survive whatever came their way. The chamber door opened, and Hiyashi and the elders entered, taking their places and sitting down dignifiedly. With her head bowed, Hiyashi gazed at Hinata. "Hinata Hyuga. You are here because you have acted in ways that are detrimental to the strength and image of this clan," said Hiyashi Hyuga. "You have conducted yourself in a manner unfitting of a member of the main family of this clan, and your actions have led to the permanent crippling of an aspiring member of the main family. Musha Hyuga was permanently crippled because of your actions. The injury to his leg will force him to forever live with a limp, and the injury to his arm has made it useless. Furthermore, you have knowingly or unknowingly leaked secrets of our clan's abilities to outsiders of the clan." Hinata shuddered and looked up, perplexed. She started to say, "What? No, I haven't." But Hiyashi cut her off. She closed her mouth and winced as he demanded, "Silence. You will not speak, is that clear? Hinata Hyuga, it is known that you have been training with people not of this clan in an alternate form of Juken. Besides eyewitness accounts of these actions, the proof was in your display earlier this day, when you used a style that is not defined in any of the kata of the Juken. In doing so, you have given people outside of this clan insight into our fighting style and Kekkei Genkei. This is an act of treason against the clan." Hinata simply shook, her head lowered once more. Hiyashi was staring at her, barely able to hide his disdain. "You are the heiress of the Hyuga clan, one of the strongest and most prominent shinobi clans of Konohagakure no Sato. Your actions reflect upon the clan more so than almost any other member. And what do people see when they look at you? A sniveling little weakling," he said. "You have brought shame and disgrace to the clan, and to me." Hinata simply knelt there, shedding tears from her eyes and bowing her head. Hiyashi watched her, his expression going blank. "The elders and I have discussed the proper course of action. Your unbecoming behavior as a member of this clan, as well as your bastardization of our fighting style and possible leaking of clan secrets to outsiders would be enough to warrant your sealing and placement in the branch family. But your actions against Musha and your permanent crippling of him demand a harsher punishment than that. Hinata, you are hereby stripped of the name Hyuga and your position as clan heiress and a member of the Hyuga clan. To ensure you do not disgrace this clan again by allowing our bloodline to fall into outsider hands, you will also be sealed. Due to the laws of Konoha, we cannot place the cursed seal upon you since you will no longer be a member of this clan and it would be viewed as an act of assault and enslavement on a citizen of Konoha. Instead, you shall bear the outcast seal." The majority of Hyuga members tensed up, widening their eyes in response. The outcast seal may seem better than the cursed seal to someone who is not a member of the clan. The only purpose of the outcast seal was to keep a Hyuga's Byakugan hidden when they passed away or if someone tried to take their eyes out. Furthermore, it stopped a Hyuga from transferring the Byakugan to their offspring. However, the outcast seal's significance was what made it so terrifying to the Hyuga clan. The wearer of the seal was willing to be rejected by the Hyuga clan, who fiercely guarded their lineage and trade secrets, thereby making it clear to everyone that they were a complete failure. The whole clan had been taught that this seal represented the height of shame, indicating that even as the lowest member of the branch family, you were so completely useless that the clan did not value keeping you. It was almost never used in their history, unless it was in dire circumstances. With a shocked expression on her face, Hinata glanced up at Hiyashi. Her brain was blank, unable to process what she had just heard. She just stood there, stunned, her eyes still welling with a few tears. Hitomi was just as shocked as Hinata was from the sidelines. She shook as she spoke up in a quiet voice. Hiyashi. Sama surely that is not necessary, she replied. Hiyashi angrily yelled, "Be silent, woman!" making Hitomi wince. He pivoted to face Hinata, signaling to the two guards at the door, "If you had not coddled the girl, then this wouldn't have happened. Take her to the sealing chamber. The seal will be placed on her, and she'll be evicted from the clan tomorrow." With fright, Hinata continued to stare at him while the two guards lifted her and started to take her away. Hiyashi simply looked at her with disdain before the room door shut. Flashback comes to an end. Anko and Naruto sat there in stunned silence, while Hinata just sat there with her eyes downcast. Anko extended her arm slowly. She touched Hinata's shoulder and whispered, "Hinata. I'm so sorry." Angrily, Naruto was trembling. His chakra flared as he yelled angrily, How could they? How could they do that to you? Those jerks. They can't do this to you." He turned to run to the door, but Anko stopped him. "Let go of me," he cried, straining to breathe. "Those jerks can't do this to her. I'll make them pay for this." Anko yelled, "Naruto, calm down, Naruto," to get Naruto to turn to face her. Then, she gestured toward Hinata. Hinata was facing down, a few tears dribbling out of her eyes. "Right now, your friend needs you, alright?" After calming down a little, Naruto went straight to Hinata. Taking her arm gently, he pulled her up and gave her an embrace. At that moment, Hinata collapsed against him and encircled Naruto with her arms while crying even harder. With his eyes closed, he embraced her tightly. With a quiet sigh, Anko turned her head away. A clone of her materialized in a cloud of smoke with a single hand gesture. "Go fetch Hokage. Sama, Yugito, and Raphael," she said to the clone, who promptly leapt out of Naruto's window after nodding. Anko pivoted back to face Hinata and Naruto. In an attempt to console Hinata, Naruto simply continued to hug her tightly. His anger subsided as he held her in his arms and watched her cry. All he could feel now was regret and sorrow. Leaning slightly closer, he held her close. He softly said, "I'm sorry," to her. Hinata just continued to cry and release all of her feelings in his arms. She couldn't stop herself, even if she wanted to, from letting go of everything she had up until now repressed. Naruto finally sensed her cries coming to an end. He turned to look down at her and saw that she was fast asleep. He looked up to Anko, who was still giving him a tight hug, asking for assistance. With a gentle sigh, Anko helped remove Hinata from him and carried her to his bed, where she was laid out. "Perhaps give the poor girl some rest," she murmured. "With what she's been through, she deserves it." Naruto sighed and took a seat at his table. How could they do that to her, her own family? Anko took a seat across from him. "That's the Hyuga for you. They've always valued image and power above all else. This is just proof of that," she continued. A knock on the door occurred at that very moment. Anko went to open the door and let Raphael and Yugito in. Raphael said, "Anko, what's going on?" Sarutobi said, stepping in behind Raphael and Yugito, "That's what I'd like to know." Anko opened the door and let the three of them in. Anko quietly stated, "We have a situation involving Hinata," and then gave the three of them a rundown of what Hinata had told them. Raphael turned away as Yugito balled up his fist and snarled, "Hijos de puta, que se pudran en el infierno." 1. In the meantime, Sarutobi glanced down and then at Anko. He inquired, "Where is Hinata now?" Anko gestured to the bedroom of Naruto. "At the moment, I'm sleeping," she stated. "Her bags are over by the door there. Hokage. Sama, she's got nowhere to go." Sarutobi gave a nod. "I understand. I would normally set her up with an apartment and a stipend like Naruto here, but given what she's been through, she'll need someone to help her get over what's happened to her." Naruto raised his gaze. He said, "She could stay with me. I want to help my friend." Sarutobi gave a headshake. "No, Naruto. Your offer is a good one, and it warms my heart to know you're so willing to help her. But it might be better to let an adult help her." Raphael turned to face Anko. With some suspicion, she said, "Anko, why did you call me and Yugito here for this?" Anko glanced at Raphael, then turned to face the bedroom. "You know what this girl has been through," she stated. "She's just been cast aside by the people she trusted and cared about. She was betrayed by those who were supposed to be there for her. I was the same way after he betrayed me," she stated. Sarutobi and Raphael were both aware that she was training her former sensei, Orochimaru. "She's going to feel like she needs a purpose again. And I think we can provide it." Gabriel folded his arms. You want to offer her a place in the Assassins? Ankoa, we can't just take in any person off the street. They have to be able to dedicate themselves to a life that involves killing other people. Not everyone can so easily accept that. I know, Raphael, but you don't understand what is going through her mind. Right now, she probably feels like the most utterly worthless piece of trash in the entire world. The girl would prostitute herself if she felt it would give her purpose again. I know, I was there. And think about how her potential skills can translate over to that of an assassin. The Byakugan can let her easily track targets, even at a distance. What little of the Juken she knows, she can use to stealthily kill an enemy with practically no visible mark, she stated, attempting to persuade Raphael. At the very least, we can offer her a chance to see if she's interested, just like you did for each of us. And if she's not, then fine. Raphael gave himself a small forehead rub. He glanced at Sarutobi and asked quietly, Hokage. Sama, what do you think? After giving what he had heard some quiet thought, the elderly Hokage turned to face Raphael. The choice is ultimately yours, Raphael.san. It's your organization. But I do think Anko has a much better understanding of what Hinata is going through. What she says has some truth to it. Raphael exhaled deeply. Fine then. We'll offer her the chance to join us, but only after she's had time to settle down for a bit. That made Anko smile, but she quickly blinked when Sarutobi interrupted, and since you do know what she's going through, Anko, I feel you would be the best person to take her in and help her through this traumatic experience, Sarutobi said with a slight grin. Anko's gaze widened. She waved her arms angrily. What, me? Are you kidding? I can't take care of a kid? I'm barely able to take care of myself? Naruto remarked, but Anko nay. Chan, she needs you, and besides, you're always taking care of me, aren't you? And Hinata will be even easier cause she's quieter and gentler than me, right? Anko let out a groan. She questioned, do I really have a choice? Sarutobi grinned. No, not really. Anko Midarashi, I'm officially making you Hinata's guardian. You can come by when Hinata wakes up to fill out the necessary paperwork. I will be giving you a small stipend to help you buy what things are necessary to help Hinata settle in, until such time as she graduates from the academy and becomes a genin of Konoha. Anko let out a sigh. Looking toward the door, she stated, fine, fine. She chuckled as she said, I guess I could always mold her into a mini.me. Yugito rolled her eyes and remarked, because that's what Konoha needs, another Anko Midarashi running around. Anko pouted a little and Raphael laughed a little. As this was going on, Naruto was worrying about his friend's condition when she woke up and was staring at his bedroom door. Hinata, hold on. I help you, and you help me. I swear, he made a mental vow. A Kuni village, 2. Huddled in an alley, a small figure in torn clothes shivered a little from the cold. They scuttled away, clutching something in their hands, trembling at the sound of something nearby. When brown eyes raised to investigate the noise, they saw a cat rummaging through some trash and pawing at it. The figure leaned back and relaxed a little. When they looked to the other side of the alley, they noticed a figure standing there, which caused their eyes to enlarge. The shadowy figure had the person's attention fixed on it. The young child leapt to her feet and turned to face the 10-year-old girl. She cried out in terror, stay away from me. The figure just grinned and walked over to the young girl. She fell on her butt and tried to pull away as she trembled with fear. The girl screamed, covering her head in her matted, red hair, as the figure withdrew a kunai and raised it menacingly. The girl let out streams of chakra that formed into a barrier in front of her as the figure smiled and raised their kunai to throw it at her. The man was poofing into smoke when a stream shot out and pierced through his heart before he could react. As the chakra faded, the girl shuddered and looked up to see people clapping behind her. She turned and saw a tall man with long black hair, golden snake-like eyes, and pale, almost white skin. He was dressed in a black long-sleeve shirt, black pants, and a grayish, white short-sleeved tunic with the yin-yang emblem on it. A purple rope belt was fastened around his waist. The man's voice hissed, that was most impressive, little one. The young woman shuddered. She cried, stay away from me, and struggled to stand up, but she stopped when the man moved to block her path out. Do not fear me, girl. I'm not here to hurt you. In fact, I want to help you, said the man. You have much potential, you know that? The girl shook and fixed her gaze on him. What do you mean? What you just did. It's quite a useful ability. Physically manipulating chakra to such an extent is such a rare gift, the man replied with a grin. I am Orochimaru, and I'm looking for people like you. People with talent. Tell me, do you enjoy living here like this? Alone in some alley, cold and hungry? The girl shook her head, trembling, holding onto the object. The man gave her a smile and held out his hand. Then come with me, my child. I'll give you a place to stay. You'll have clothes, food, and a warm place to sleep. And what's more, I'll give you power to do anything you want, to achieve any goal or dream you have. And all you have to do is help me. What do you say? The girl looked at his hand and shuddered a little. She muttered, why? You'll really do that for me? Yes, little one. I will. Tell me, what is your name? He inquired. The girl bit her lip and then tentatively took his hand. My name is Tayuya Uzumaki, or Tayuya, she said, holding his hand. And I'll come with you. Konoha's renegade snake slayer, Orochimaru, grinned at his newest recruit. Good, he said, starting to lead her out of the way. Together, we'll both achieve our dreams. Konoha the following day silently. Hinata completed emptying one of her 2 bags and laid the belongings on her new room's bed. When she had finally woken up yesterday, Anko and Naruto had accompanied her to see the Hokage, where she discovered that Anko would now be her guardian. She had silently agreed to this, signing her name when asked, moving almost robotically as though she were in a trance. Later on, Anko had taken her back to the house and shown her the guest room, which became her bedroom. Naruto and Anko had later dragged her outside. Anko had expressed her desire to celebrate moving in with a roommate. But Hinata was aware that they were merely attempting to lift her spirits. Although she was grateful for their efforts, the truth was that she didn't think anything could cheer her up. She paused her unpacking to touch something gently on her chest, then slowly withdrew a necklace containing a locket. She took her time opening it, and inside was a photo of her mother. She took her time getting into bed, gazing at it while recalling how she had obtained it. Retrospection. Hinata just stared blankly at the locked gates of the Hyuga compound. With nothing but the clothes on her back, she had been standing there for almost 10 minutes. The outcast seal, surrounded by the cursed seal and resembling the Hyuga emblem, was prominently displayed on her forehead. Her entire head ached from the sealing's activation and throbbed with pain. When she finally tuned, she had no idea where to go or what to do. With her eyes fixed on the ground, she began to slowly back away, observing her feet as they moved in front of each other. She was abruptly stopped by a voice, and as she looked up and began to blink, she realized she was getting away from the Hyuga compound. She was in an area of the village that was entirely made up of apartment buildings, so she had no idea how far she had come. In the alley, she glimpsed a figure that momentarily emerged from the shadows. Hitomi Hyuga beckoned to Hinata and said, softly, please come here. Hinata gave her a blink. Mom. She walked up to her and asked, what are you doing here? Hitomi softly touched Hinata's cheek with her outstretched arm before embracing her. Hitomi was sobbing quietly, and Hinata blinked in surprise. She continued to hug Hinata, whispering, oh my baby. I'm sorry, Hinata. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. Hinata gave her mother a quick, shuddery hug in return. For a few minutes, the two stayed in that position before Hitomi released her daughter and wiped her tears. She turned and picked up 2 packs, placing them beside Hinata. Here. I managed to get several of your personal items from your room, she continued. I also managed to get a couple scrolls on basic Jukin. It should be enough to help your training, she said gently. Hinata gazed at her mother and then back at the packs. She muttered, but you could get into trouble for this. They could seal you for giving these things to me. Glancing at her daughter, Hitomi grinned pitifully. She said, I failed to protect you in the clan, my little sunshine. If I can help you now, it's worth any price. And then she reached into her kimono sleeves to retrieve a locket. I hope you'll accept this as well. After Hinata accepted it, she opened the locket to reveal her mother's photo within. She gave her mother another hug after raising her head. She began to cry and give her mother a hug, saying, Mommy. I'm sorry. Hitomi simply gave her more hugs. She hugged her daughter and said, Shish, don't apologize, sweetie. Don't apologize. Just go, and live a happy life, Hinata. You're free. Free from the clan and the rules and the pressure. Free to do anything you want, she concluded. Hinata did not stop sobbing and clinging to Hitomi, who comforted her, until she finally became quiet. After carefully yanking her away, Hitomi took a roll of bandages out of one of the packs, unrolled it, and wrapped it around her forehead. When she was done, she wiped Hinata's tears away gently. She said, Do you have somewhere to go? To her. Though she shook, Hinata nodded. I'll go to Naruto. Kun's home. Maybe he can help me, she replied. With a smile, Hitomi gave her daughter a cheek kiss. Then go, sweetie. And prove to the clan, the village, and the world that you're a strong, capable kunoichi, she concluded. And know that I'll always be with you, no matter what. After giving her mother another hug and nodding, Hinata went to get her packs. She took one last glance at Hitomi before turning to go find Naruto's apartment. Flashback comes to an end when Hinata heard a knock on the door. She wiped away the tears that had returned as she carefully closed the locket. "See, come in," she said, glancing towards the entrance. Anko came in and grinned at Hinata. She asked, leaning against the doorframe, "How are you doing?" Hinata merely gave her a nod. Quietly, she replied, "I'm fine, thank you for asking," and returned to unpacking. With a sigh, the purple-haired special Junin stepped into the room. I know what you're going through." She patted the spot next to Hinata as she sat down on her bed. Anko gave her a sorrowful smile as Hinata took a seat slowly beside her. "When I was a genin, my sensei was everything to me. I never really knew my mother or father, but I'm told my mother was a kunoichi who died during childbirth due to complications. And my father was a civilian. Well, he never got over my mom's death. He died a few years afterwards. When my sensei, he was like a father to me. And I loved him for it," she continued. While Anko continued, Hinata's gaze was fixed on the ground. "My sensei betrayed me in Konoha. He left me for dead in a secret lab somewhere in Sea Country. A man who I trusted and cared for me betrayed me. I know it's not exactly the same as what you went through, but I know what you're feeling, Hinata. And I'm here for you," she said, staring at Hinata. Hinata spent a few moments staring at her feet before turning to face Anko. She said, "Anko-san, thank you." "Ah, don't be so formal. We're roommates now. Call me Anko, Anko-chan, or even Anko-ne-chan. That blonde gaki calls me that," she laughed. "Now, how about some dango, huh? I could go for some dango." Gazing at her, Hinata nibbled on her lip. She said timidly, Do you have any cinnamon rolls? Ia had some once. They were really good." Anko gave her a smile. "Okay, cinnamon rolls and mango," she exclaimed as she stood up. "And maybe we could go get you some more exciting clothes. No offense to you, but the Hyuga always dress so boringly. Let's live it up, she joked. Hinata gave him a blink. Are you sure?" she inquired. She laughed and said, "Of course. You're my roommate and I'm going to look out for you. Plus, it'll be fun." Just as Anko started dragging Hinata away, she blinked once more. However, as she did, a tiny glimmer of hope appeared in her heart. Perhaps things wouldn't be as bad as they seemed for her. After a week with a sigh, Raphael went back to his office in the assassin's hideout to finish reading the reports. The schedule of scheduled shipments from Gato Industries to Mizu no Kuni for the next month had been delivered by one of his more recent contacts in one of the port towns on the east coast of the Hai no Kuni. He was aware that he had to reach Mizu no Kuni prior to the final shipment arriving if he was to find out who these weapon shipments were intended for. With a sigh, he put down the report and got up, extending his back to release some tension, and then he stepped outside and into the training area. There, waiting for Anko to arrive, Yugito and Naruto were both sitting and conversing. When they saw him coming, they both got to their feet. "Mentor," they both bowed to him in jest. Raphael merely rolled his eyes and then started talking. "Yugito, I'm going to be heading to Mizu no Kuni soon, and I want you to come with me. I think this will be an excellent time for your final assessment, in becoming a full-ranked assassin." Yugito nodded, her eyes widening. "I understand Raphael-san, but what about Hokage? Sama? He'll surely want to know I'm gone." "Already taken care of. He's not thrilled I'm taking you with me, but he understands that it'd be dangerous no matter where I take you. He feels this is at least safer since Kiri is so disorganized currently," said Raphael. "Make sure to pack enough for a few months, since we'll be gone for quite some time." Naruto looked up at Yugito as he nodded. He said, "What about me, Raphael-sensei? You, Naruto, are going to keep training. Anko will help you, and you may need to help her out, depending on what happens after today," he stated. Naruto nodded, realizing what Raphael had meant to say in the last sentence. The door to the hiding place opened, revealing Anko leading a blindfolded Hinata inside. The three of them glanced up. "Don't worry, Hinata, we're here," Anko assured the apprehensive young lady she was escorting into the warehouse. Hinata shuddered a little. Anko-san, where are we?" "Where we are is currently a secret, Princess," Anko replied. "But it may not always be a secret. Depends on how things go," Anko stated. Anko led Hinata to the meeting hall at the back of the warehouse, and Hinata just followed her shyly. "Yugito, Naruto, and Raphael trailed after them until they reached the hallway. Anko carefully took off Hinata's blindfold as Raphael walked to the dais and faced the hall. The young girl tried to clear her eyes by blinking, but then she looked around her bewildered. What's going on? Sorry about the secrecy, Hinata-san, but we value our privacy, Raphael replied. As for why you were brought here, it's to make you an offer. With her nervousness visible in her lavender eyes, Hinata turned to face him. An offer? He pointed to Anko and Yugito and said, yes, you've been training alongside us for the past 2 years. We've been watching you, measuring your abilities and skills. And more recently, we've come to the conclusion that you could be a valuable member of our group. We wish to offer you a chance to join us. Hinata turned to face the group of people surrounding her and saw Naruto, who was grinning supportively at her. She turned to face Raphael again. She said, join you? Why do you want me? Once again, Anko responded. We want you because we believe you're Byakugan and your abilities could be a great asset. But more importantly, we're your friends, and we think that both you and ourselves can benefit from you joining us, Hinata. We want to help you any way we can, and we feel that giving you this chance to join us will help you deal with recent events. Hinata gave them a look. But what do you do? Why all the secrecy? Raphael inhaled deeply. I can't go into every detail at this time, Hinata. But basically, we're assassins. We're training to kill people as stealthily and as quietly as possible. Now there's a lot more to it than that, but we can't tell you anymore unless you decide to join us. What I can say though is we're not doing it for money or for war, like the shinobi villages are doing so. We have a purpose that some will call noble, and some will call barbaric. Hinata's eyes widened as she shuddered in terror. At last, she stammered, kill people? Naruto then proceeded forward. His hand brushed her shoulder. Hinata, they're already training us to kill people at the academy, he remarked. Being a shinobi means a life of fighting and killing and death, all for your village. Our group here. We're going to kill people, but we're doing it for different reasons. After giving him a long look, Hinata shakily nodded. Oh, okay, I guess you're right. But what reason are you killing people for then? Raphael gave a headshake. Hinata, I can't go into details at this point. Not unless you decide to join us. However, I will say this. If you do decide to join us, you're free to leave at any point that you think you can't do what we're doing anymore. If you join us, you're free to leave, so long as you swear that you won't betray us. He went on, drawing Hinata's attention. We don't want you to decide now. You should think about our offer. This is a big decision, Hinata, because if you join us, you'll be dedicating your life to our ideals and our ways. You'll be accepting a life that involves dealing death. But whether or not you decide to join us, know that we'll always be here for you, no matter what. The youthful ex. Hyuga gave a sidelong glance before giving a gentle nod. She muttered, I understand. And thank you for this offer. Raphael nodded just once. If you do decide to join us, tell Anko, and she'll begin your training. Yugito and I are going to be out of the village for some time now. And we please ask you don't talk to anyone but Naruto, Anko, or Hokage Sama about what has happened today. Startled, she raised her head. She asked, astonished, Hokage Sama knows about your group? Yes, he does. We've reached an agreement with him that allows us to operate in secret here in the village. He'll probably be happy to give you his own opinion on our offer, if he's not too busy, said Raphael. For now though, you should go and think about it. With a slight nod, Hinata allowed Anko to approach and blindfold her once more before guiding her out of sight. Naruto glanced at Raphael and Yugito as they vanished. He inquired, do you think she'll join? Saying, I don't know Naruto, Yugito remarked. We haven't given her much to go on. Just be sure to be there for her if she has questions. It is not an easy choice, Raphael responded, especially for one her age. Most assassin recruits I knew were adults or in their late teens. Quite honestly, Naruto, I sometimes question if you're too young for this. With his eyes fixed on Raphael, Naruto glanced at him. No way, Raphael. Sensei, if the village can train us to be shinobi while we're kids, then you can train me and Hinata to be assassins. Raphael gave Naruto a flimsy little smile. Naruto, you have a strong spirit. Never lose it, he said, giving Naruto a single-arm hug. Now come on. Let's get some more training in before me and Yugito leave, he replied. With an excited nod, Naruto dashed into the training area, Yugito and Raphael following closely behind. After 2 weeks, one of the biggest port cities in Mizu no Kuni's western region, Buru Jinkoko, 3, served as a major trading hub for the numerous islands dotted around the elemental nation's eastern region. It was once Mizu no Kuni's prize jewel, but the bloodline rebels and the shinobi of Kirigakure no Sato had tarnished this once shining gem. Nevertheless, the port kept up a thriving trade because there were still civilians in the country in need of food, clothing, and other necessities. Two people were getting off a hybrid transport passenger ship at one specific dock. The ship had just arrived from a port in the northeastern region of Haya no Kuni. The man in front had blue eyes and blonde hair, and he was dressed like a merchant. A woman wearing merchant's clothes also walked behind him. She had blue eyes and long brown hair that hung down to her shoulders, covering her forehead with bangs. They were all carrying travel cases. An unnamed civilian official welcomed them at the base of the ramp. His hands held a clipboard and a pen. "Halt. Please state your name and business," he said. The man grinned. "Certainly. My name is Zuhan Akindo, and this is my associate Kimyu, Curious. We are traders, here to purchase kiri plateware and cutlery to sell in K's no Kuni." The dock manager took note of the details and nodded. "That's great. Feel free to continue." He moved aside. Zuhan nodded and moved forward, Kimyu trailing behind. Soon after, the two arrived at an inn close to the docks, where they bought 2 single rooms. After dropping off their stuff, they both went to Zuhan's room to meet. After shutting and locking the door, Zuhan took off his hair, exposing shaggier brown locks. After taking out his contact lenses, Raphael remarked, "Well, that was the easy part. I'll never get used to sticking these things into my eyes." Shaking out her blonde hair, Yugito removed her own wig. "It's a great way to sneak past shinobi though," she added. "So what do we do now?" Raphael peered out the room's window. "We get the lay of the city. We have 3 days till the ship with the new cache of weapons arrives, and the better we know this port, the better we can track the weapons when they arrive. Once we find where the weapons are going, we'll study the target, and he'll devise the best time, place, and way to take him out." Yugito nodded and proceeded to unseal her weapons, equipment, and her dark purple assassin recruit outfit by removing a scroll concealed in her merchant's clothing. Raphael laid everything out to take a look at it as well. There was a tavern nearby that was humming with activity. There was no shortage of idle sailors and dock workers who came to unwind with drinks, slots machines, and ladies of leisure. There was a flurry of bodies, smoke, and noise on the main tavern floor. A group of figures gathered in a corner around a single central figure who was occupied with sipping from the mug that one of them had brought with him. Before he spoke, he put down the mug and cleaned his mouth with his sleeve. His friends nodded when he asked, "So we're in agreement then? All right then. When that next shipment of weapons arrive, we take it, and earn ourselves a pretty penny in the process." He laughed. He lifted his mug and exclaimed, "To an easy day's pay, lads." The others followed suit.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.